Hey man, it's me, Kevin Smith, Silent Bob, and all those terrible Jay and Silent Bob type pictures, man. You're listening to Drop the Mic, the only podcast that I listen to that I'm not a part of. Every podcast I listen to, I usually talk on it, but not fucking Drop the Mic. That's where I'm like, let me hear what the boys have to say. And now, we drop the mic.
We are a rescue team, not assassins. Now, what do we gotta do?
In a part of the world where there are no rules.
We pick up their trailer at the chopper, run them down, grab those hostages before anybody knows we were there. What do you mean, we?
Deep in the jungle, where nothing that lives is safe.
You lose it here, you're in a world of hurt.
Showtime, kid. Knock, knock.
An elite rescue squad
You're bleeding, man. I ain't got time to bleed.
is being led by the ultimate warrior.
We need the best. That's why you're here.
But now,
What's got Billy so spooked? There's something out there waiting for us. And it ain't no man.
they're up against the ultimate enemy.
Holy Mother of God.
Nothing like it has ever been on Earth before.
She says the jungle just came alive and took him.
We cannot see it,
No blood, no bodies. We hit nothing.
but it sees the heat of our bodies and the heat of our fear.
Whatever it is out there, it killed Hopper. And now it wants us.
It kills for pleasure.
He was skinned alive.
It hunts for sport.
It's killing us one at a time.
We're all gonna die.
But this time, it's picked the wrong man to hunt.
If it bleeds, we can kill it.
Century Fox presents Arnold Schwarzenegger. Predator. The hunt begins Friday, June 12th at theaters everywhere.
Welcome back to our humble San Diego podcast. I'm Wesley, and alongside me is Chris Pollack, and this is our Summer of Sci-Fi special episode 357, Run Through the Jungle, where we will break down and discuss a film that is arguably one of the most iconic pieces of work to come out of the 80s. That's 1987's Predator. What's up, Chris? How are you?
Good. I should mention that this is mid-August. This is our July episode coming in mid-August because you and I have been very, very busy.
Yep.
And which I guess is a good thing. But also, we were supposed to do the show last week, and then I had some sinus issues that were affecting my voice and everything, so you decided to hold off. And even then, we thought we might get together over the weekend, and then you weren't feeling well.
Yep.
So, now we're midweek in mid-August.
Yeah, it was just like everything stacked against us for some reason.
But we're still delivering the show.
It kind of falls in line with all the troubles that happened with getting this movie made, to be honest, right?
Except we didn't all get diarrhea.
Oh, yeah. What is it? The Traveler's Diary, right? Oh, no. We'll talk more about that later.
We will get into that.
But it's time to warm up. So, pop culture news. Do you have anything on that front for us?
Well, I mean, I have news.
Yep.
Obviously, at this point in time, everyone probably knows that Biden dropped out of the race.
Yep.
He put up Kamala Harris, his VP, to be president. She got the backing of everyone. They're going to officially nominate her at the DNC next week. So, that's big news. Everyone make sure you're registered to vote. Check your registration. I know we live in California, but maybe some of our listeners do not. Make sure that you're registered to vote. Make sure you vote as early as you can, whether it's mail or in person. And let's get her elected. You know, so we can get rid of Trump. Fucking finally.
Yes.
You know, kick him to the fucking curb. Do something that the Republicans haven't been able to do for a decade. They've been too fucking spineless. Especially after he instigated a fucking coup attempt.
Yeah.
And the fact that they're still backing him and still going with him is insane. The fact that he's a convicted felon and has a solid chance still at winning the presidency, although I think that chance is diminishing day by day if you're following the news. But don't get complacent. Whatever the polls say, make sure you get out there and vote. No matter how far ahead Harris might end up being in a couple of months, get out there and vote. Don't let it turn into 2016 where a lot of people were just very complacent, decided not to vote, or voted out of spite for someone else. Make sure that you get out there and vote. Everyone counts, especially in some states. And let's fucking blow Trump out of the water, man. I want him to lose the popular vote by like 30 million people. I hope that he does.
As it should be.
As it should be, but, you know, never underestimate the stupidity of the American people sometimes.
Yeah. It's a wild time right now. In a not a great way.
No. No, and the implications of Trump getting back in office are really dire.
Yeah, it's scary.
I mean, if you've been following the news, if you know anything about like Project 2025, or about just the shit that he's been saying, like from his own mouth, like, you do not want this guy back in office. Things are not going to be okay and just fine for 4 years until we can get rid of him. So he needs to be stopped. I think right now that Harris has a pretty solid coalition of voters of all demographics and political spectrum, like, backing her because they recognize the threat that Trump is. And we have to be vigilant and pay attention and do our job. Make sure that he never gets back in office again.
I have a silly question for you.
Sure.
Are you going to be watching the debate? Are you excited for that in September?
Oh, hell yeah. Like, I didn't watch the Biden-Trump debate. I don't need to see debates because I know who I'm voting for. You're not going to sway me. I'd have voted for Biden if he was in a coma with no brain function before I would ever think about voting Republican. However, because I know that he's scared and he's tried to drop out and he tried to change the parameters of the debate, if that September 10th one happens, I'm really excited. I can't wait to see her just fucking mop the floor with him.
Yeah. My thoughts exactly.
So you're excited for it as well?
I am. I've just been waiting, and it was so sad because I felt like Biden, this last one I watched it, right? And and he had so many great pockets where he could have shot Trump down, and he dropped the ball again and again, And
that's what I had heard, and that's the worry that I had. And I was really worried that, we were just going to head into another Trump presidency, that either people were going to see that Biden was diminished, or people were going to be like, well, we just went through this 4 years ago. I'm not excited about either of these guys. I'm not going to vote. And then not voting basically says, well, this shitbag's going to end up getting elected then if you don't vote. So I got really worried about that. And then when he dropped out, I got super worried because I was thinking, well, who's it going to be? Because even when his initial statement came out, he didn't put up Harris yet. That came a little bit later. But seeing after he put her up and seeing just like the galvanization of everyone just being like super excited about this, really made me happy and kind of settled my nerves some.
Yeah.
Because just she had a lot of support like right out of the gate. She's picking up a hell of a lot more of it now. But just knowing that like a lot of people were fired up with her, especially like younger people and everything, like made me feel better. And then when she picked Walz to be the VP, her VP pick, she had a deep bench. Like she couldn't go wrong with a lot of those picks. Myself, I was really partial to Pete Buttigieg. I hope that she's smart enough to give him a job in her cabinet. And maybe at some point in time, he will run for president. I'm like super impressed with him. He's such a good dude. He always like destroys everyone with facts and truth. So hopefully he gets a job in her cabinet, and then eventually he ends up running for office. But I think that Waltz was probably the best overall pick for her. He checks a lot of those boxes. I think it's also like kind of a signal to older white people who might have been a little bit worried that, hey, it's okay. I got someone good in the passenger seat with me. We're going to be good. So I'm like really excited now. I see that she's picking up steam. I know we're still a couple months out, but I am really, really confident. The only thing that I'm not confident about is the electoral college bullshit, which is an outdated form of voting, which I can't believe that we haven't dropped yet. And I hope to live to see the day where they drop the electoral college and we just go straight popular vote as it should be. Because if we went straight popular vote, Trump would have never been in office in the first fucking place, let alone maybe having a chance still in a couple of months. Get out there, vote this motherfucker away into the dustbin of history, and at the same time, vote down ballot and send the fucking Republicans a message saying that we're not going to stand for this. We're not going to stand for you lifting up a criminal and an insurrectionist, someone who has like no clue about truth, who will not accept truth, and tell them we're not going to accept this. That we believe in women's rights and we believe in gay rights. We believe in science and we believe in truth and facts. And not this bullshit that they try to play. So I hope it's, I don't want to say bloodbath because I'm not trying to like get like the violent words in there, but I really hope that it's a completely landslide, blue wave all the way. Vote these treasonous motherfuckers out of office. All these people that refuse to accept the 2020 results, they're not going to accept these results. So vote all these fucking guys out. Get rid of them.
All right. Anything?
I have actual pop culture news, I promise.
Okay.
It's been about 6 weeks since you and I sat down, maybe even 7, because of everything. So I have lots of deaths to report. Cool. Okay, so here we go. This is a long list. Bear with me. If you haven't dropped out of this episode already, bear with me. Martin Mull, very famous comedic actor. He was 80. Mr. Mom, great movie. If you've never seen Mr. Mom, Michael Keaton rules. Clue, another great comedy from the 80s. I know that we've discussed it before, but if you went to go see that movie in the theater in the mid-'80s, because the ending is different, certain theaters or certain reels were shipped with the film. So, like, if you're in, like, one theater, you got this ending. If you're in this theater, there was another ending. And I think now that it's on home video, I was going to say home video, but it's not video anymore, really.
Physical
media. Or even streaming. I think I watched it on HBO or Cinemax or something a few years ago, maybe even during the pandemic. They had all 3 endings. Like when you watch the movie like on HBO or something.
Oh, really?
They include all 3, yeah.
That's cool.
But if you saw the movie in the theater in the 80s, you only got like one ending. But Clue, great movie. Mrs. Doubtfire. He had a TV show called Fernwood Tonight, which I believe was kind of a talk show format. Had a very big arc on Roseanne back in the day, one of the first gay characters on television. Has a great Simpsons episode with him and George Carlin where they play old hippies. And Arrested Development, which I'm a huge fan of. He had a part on that, like a reoccurring role on that, where he was a private investigator by the name of Gene Parmesan, and he would always surprise Jessica Walter, and she would get like super excited. So look that up on YouTube if you can, like a compilation of Jessica Walter being excited by Gene Parmesan. She was like, Gene Parmesan, because he was always in like a different disguise. So R.I.P. to him. Next up, I have Robert Towne. I don't know if you know who that is, if you know the name. Very, very famous screenwriter. Did some script doctor work on some real famous movies. Bonnie and Clyde, The Godfather, Parallax View, Heaven Can Wait. But he's mainly known as an Academy Award-winning screenwriter of Chinatown, which is a masterpiece movie. I know I've recommended it before. I will recommend it again. Masterpiece of a movie, no matter what your views on Roman Polanski might be. Forget all that and just focus on the film. Great movie. What else did Towne wrote? The Last Detail with Nicholson. Have you ever seen The Last Detail?
No.
Very famous scene in that movie. If we ever do side table reads, I want to do this scene in the movie. In the movie The Last Detail. Check it out. Great movie. Shampoo, which I told you I fucking hated when I watched it a few years ago. It just didn't do anything for me. I know it's like a famous like 70s movie and everything, but it just like I absolutely hated it when I watched it. Days of Thunder, he worked on The Firm. He worked on Mission Impossible 1 and 2. I know that 2 gets shit on, but he contributed to the screenplays of both of those. Next up, I got John Landau. I don't know if you know who that is, but a very famous film producer, one of James Cameron's partners in Lightstorm Entertainment. I think he met Cameron when they were doing True Lies, but basically, all of the Lightstorm Entertainment movies John Landau was a producer on, which includes True Lies, Titanic, Solaris, Avatar, Alita, and then the Avatar sequel, The Way of Water. CJ's ultimate, like, James Cameron movie. Am I right about that? That was CJ's favorite?
I think so.
The Way of Water? All right. I guess Aliens or the Terminator doesn't exist. So R.I.P. to him. He was only 63. That's young. The big one, Shelley Duvall.
Yes.
R.I.P. Obviously, we know her from The Shining. I know that performance is very divisive. I think she's great in The Shining. I don't know what other people want to say about that, but I think she's great. I don't think she's bad in that movie, like a lot of people want to claim. I do go to bat for Rebecca De Mornay in the shitty, like, miniseries version, because I think she's a bit closer to the book, Wendy. But I think that Shelley Duvall is great in The Shining, and I know that there was always controversy where, like, was Stanley Kubrick, like, abusive towards her, like, making her do stuff over and over again. And even though she said that she wouldn't want to go through that again, she was also very praiseworthy of that film and that role. So, and that's her words and her choice. But beyond The Shining, she was really like Robert Altman's find, like in the 70s, and she's in a ton of Altman movies. And if you've never seen any of these Altman movies, check them out. They're all really good. I just rewatched Brewster McCloud, which was her first movie, a few weeks ago. Great movie. She's awesome in it. But also McCabe and Mrs. Miller, very good movie. Thieves Like Us, very good movie. Nashville, which unfortunately is one I haven't seen. But Three Women. Popeye. Popeye is not a great movie, but she's fantastic as Olive Oyl in it. And the song that she sings, He Needs Me, great song. Great song, and even so much that P.T. Anderson uses it in Punch Drunk Love. But she's great. She's great in those Altman films, even though Popeye might be not the greatest movie in the world. But she's also in Annie Hall, Time Bandits. She's great in Time Bandits. Roxanne, The Underneath, a very little seen Steven Soderbergh movie before he jumped into some bigger stuff with Out of Sight, like we discussed a few months back. And then she had TV shows that she was a producer and star of on Showtime, and then maybe PBS at one point in time. I know Showtime had one of them, which is Fairy Tale Theater, and then she did like Tall Tales and Legends, Bedtime Stories. Those were her shows. Those were always really good, and it was kind of like it always reminded me of it was an anthology series that she would obviously do fairy tales, but it kind of reminded me of like Tales from the Crypt, where there would be an anthology series, but you always had like these big actors in the episodes. So that was really cool. So R.I.P. to her. I know that she hasn't been acting for a long time, but want to shout her out.
Of course.
Shannon Doherty, unfortunately, again, way too young at 53, battling some cancer. But obviously Beverly Hills 90210, obviously Charmed. Our House, which is a show that I remember watching when I was a kid, which had Wilford Brimley in it. But also Girls Just Want to Have Fun. That's a pretty good movie. Heathers, great movie. Mallrats, great movie. I know that Mallrats is more of a cult classic now. We know was not well received at the time, but I love Mallrats.
It's great. Those
first, like 3 or 4 Kevin Smith movies are all pretty fucking good. And then, he gets varying degrees of mediocre to bad. But that's my opinion. But I know that, a lot of people wanted to shit on Mallrats, but I think that Mallrats is really fucking good. I think that she's funny in it. And she plays off of Jason Lee really well. So, I want to shout her out. And lastly, at least according to when my notes stopped, Bob Newhart died. Very famous comedian and actor. Mainly did TV. He had his own. He had his own couple of shows. Some of them are like the Bob Newhart Show and Newhart, which the Bob Newhart Show was in the 70s. Newhart was in the 80s. Huge shows. And the ending of Newhart is one of the greatest endings in TV history, because he wakes up from a dream and he's in the previous show that he did, the Bob Newhart Show. So he ended one show going back, like looping back to the end of the other show that he had done, which was always like a real funny twist ending. So shout him out. He's also in and Out. He's in Elf. And he has a great little cameo scene at the end of Horrible Bosses. So those are, unfortunately, all the deaths I have listed. I don't know if there was a couple more like big ones. I don't think so. I was trying to keep an eye out, but my notes were ended last week, maybe 2 weeks ago, when I thought we might do the show at the end of the month. So I apologize if I am missing anyone. And 2 other stories I have, one of which is not good, which I told you would not end well. Warner Brothers Discovery, who has had a tumultuous couple of years since its inception in 2022 and whose value is down 30% this year, may have to break up and spin off its TV assets, which includes like the Discovery Channel, TNT, TBS, CNN, Home and Garden, the Food Network, even Turner Classic Movies, which I'm a huge fan of and always try to elevate. They may have to spin that up, or they may have to spin that off into a new company that's already going to be saddled with debt, or they're going to have to just sell them to like other services.
So
they're running that company into the ground.
What's going on? People are just not interested, or?
It's just that a lot of people are doing streaming.
Yeah.
Not necessarily like traditional cable anymore. So a lot of those shows aren't getting.
So Max doesn't count, or?
Max counts, but I know that you could access a lot of those shows on Max, but I don't know if they're making
like if they're getting
the money that they should.
The hits. Like if you're.
Excuse me. Yes.
If you're. Oh, that's terrible. That should.
Well, since Zaslav took over, like it kind of seemed like his whole plan from the jump was to devalue that company and then sell it for parts. So they may have to sell off all their TV stuff. And again, I know that we talked about this because it was in the news months ago when I brought it up. I hope that they don't fuck with Turner Classic Movies.
Yeah.
There was that possibility that was going to get the axe at some point in time, and then Spielberg and was it Scorsese and Paul Thomas Anderson all went to bat for it. And we're even like, we'll step in as programmers. Do not get rid of this because this is a very valuable station, and for its history and film. And I got into watching that channel a lot because it was playing a lot of movies that I hadn't seen.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a lot of film history there. And some movies that I hadn't seen before, I watched them on the station, and now they're like some of my favorite films. Just because a movie is in black and white doesn't mean it's bad, people. Check some stuff out. I mean, they don't play strictly black and white movies, but I think there's always been this aversion, with people more our age and generation who are just, well, I mean, I'm older than you, but you know what I mean.
Yes. Yeah.
Who are always have this aversion, I don't want to watch a black and white movie. Like,
they can't go far back, far back.
Yeah.
But you're missing out.
You're missing out on so much great stuff. And not every movie that they play on that station is a banger, but, it's film history. So I hope that station doesn't get fucked with. I honestly hope that the Food Network doesn't get fucked with. I like watching the Food Network from time to time now that I've gotten into baking a lot more. So I really hope that a lot of that stuff doesn't end up dying out or getting dumped on some other service. Lastly, last one, I promise. This one is big news for me. This is a show that I've talked about multiple times, a show that I really love, and has been unavailable for so many years because of music licensing issues.
Mm-hmm.
But starting on August 19th, NBC's groundbreaking police drama Homicide: Life on the Street will finally be on streaming. The show will debut on Peacock, which you have, right?
Yes.
Check the show out, man. It's amazing. The show will debut on Peacock after years of being in limbo due to its music licensing for the show's eclectic soundtrack. And it did a lot to really elevate some lesser-known bands. Morphine, a band that I love that I got into from Get Shorty.
Mm-hmm.
I know that they had some I believe that they had some music on there. Soul Coughing, which is another one. That's where I first heard Super Bon Bon was on that show. So that was the big holdup, was kind of like with Freaks and Geeks, where they had a lot of music in the show, and it took them a long time to work out all the licensing. Even Moonlighting, if you know Moonlighting, had that issue too, where they couldn't be on streaming because of all the music rights issues that finally got worked out. And I know that Moonlight is streaming, I think, on Hulu now.
Mm-hmm.
I think Freaks and Geeks is on Hulu as well. But yeah, Homicide's gonna be on Peacock.
And it's going to have all the
music.
Okay.
All the music got worked out. I have this quote from David Simon, who wrote the book that the show was based on, because David Simon wrote for the Baltimore Sun, and he spent he was on the police beat, and that's where he wrote the book was from spending time with actual Baltimore cops and seeing all this. And a lot of the stories in that book end up worked into this show, and even some stuff on The Wire as well. He had this to say: "Word is that NBC has managed to finally secure the music rights necessary to sell Homicide: Life on the Street to a streaming platform. Andre, meaning Andre Brower, Richard Belzer, Yaphet Kotto, and Ned Beatty, who are all passed on at this point in time, and so many others who labored on that wonderful show on both sides of the camera will soon regain a full share of their legacy." So, this was one of my all-time favorite shows. I have the first couple of seasons on DVD, but it's been unavailable ever since.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm super excited that it's going to be on streaming, and some people are going to get the chance to check this show out.
When does it drop again? Did you say
August 19th?
19. Oh, say
yeah,
right
very, very soon.
Okay.
Very soon. So if you have Peacock, I highly suggest checking this show out if you can. It's really good, and you'll recognize a lot of people on that show that maybe went on later on. Steve Buscemi has a very famous episode. There's a great Robin Williams episode that's just super heart-wrenching.
Mm-hmm.
Vincent D'Onofrio is in another fantastic episode. So you see a lot of those people, kind of like when you watch Miami Vice back in the day, and you see a lot of people that became big stars later on.
Yeah.
Homicide: Life on the Street did that with a lot of other people. So I'm really excited, and I hope that people will get a chance to check this out.
Oh yeah, I'll definitely check it out.
Great show. One of my favorites. That's all my news. We're an hour into the show.
Only 38 minutes.
Okay.
I got 3 pieces for you. They're pretty small compared to everything.
Shoot. Oh.
All right, to start off, the film studio Neon has released the first teaser trailer for James Wan and Osgood Perkins' The Monkey,
I saw that yesterday.
which is slated for February 21st, 2025.
That's cool that Perkins is doing kind of that quick turnaround.
Yeah, I was like, wow, that is fast.
Yeah, although I'm guessing the Long Legs was shot a
while
while
ago.
back and was probably just sitting there waiting to get the release.
Yeah.
But that's cool. I'm excited. I've kind of become like a fan of his watching the last few movies.
Yeah. From what I gather, I mean, it doesn't give you much of anything in this teaser, just kind of random visuals, right? But from what I've heard, it couldn't be farther from what, like I guess, how Long Legs is.
Mm-hmm.
It's like completely different. You wouldn't, like, unless you know that he directed it, you would never think that this would have been from the same mind, which is exciting. I like that versatility, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you don't have to make the same movie over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know some people at work that I was talking to, and they're just like, Long Legs isn't really scary. And I was like, that guy's more of a vibe director than, like, jump scares and everything. Long Legs, I think, has some solid, like, really creep-out moments in it.
Yeah.
But even, like, Blackcoat's Daughter and everything, like, I'm not scared during it, but, like, it's really, like, unsettling.
No, like his films, he does this thing where it's like this constant dread.
Yeah.
And like it creeps up on you
Yeah.
and you think about the movie far after you've watched it. That's his thing.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't get that.
And I'm way more into that, like the Ari Aster thing too. It's like you don't need to like throw jump scares at me. Like what's going to scare me later on is when I'm thinking about it like days and weeks later, and I'm just like, ooh, like I don't feel great right now. I'm like very uneasy.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's like going to burrow into my brain.
I'll tell you one thing. I went to watch. This was a few weeks ago now, but so we watched Long Legs when it opened, and then we went maybe like a week or two later and watched it again. And both I and my girlfriend, I think we enjoyed it even more so because you're not having to unpack everything. You already know what's going to happen, so you can actually pay attention to like the fine details and everything. And it was so good the second time around.
Oh, I'm looking forward to checking it out the second time then.
Yeah.
I mean, I would love to watch it again. I just didn't have the time for that month. I just got lucky and caught it like after work one day. But I had a great time in it.
It's a good movie.
It is. It is. I really enjoyed it. We'll be talking about it at the end of the year.
Definitely. Yeah, so go check out that monkey teaser.
Yeah.
If you're interested.
It's really short. It's like less than a minute.
Were you a fan of Crawl? Did you ever see that?
I did see Crawl.
And you liked it?
It was a solid movie, yeah.
I remember you talked shit on it before.
What did I say about it?
You were just like, man, that's a stupid ass fucking premise for a movie. And then I remember I went to go see it and I told you like, no, dude, you need to check this out because like, regardless of what you thought from the trailer, it's fucking, I don't know how they did it, how they pulled it off, but it's solid.
It's good. It's a good, like, there's good tension in it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's fun. A lot of fun. Well made.
Yeah.
How do you say Alexander Aja?
Yeah.
I think the director. Yeah. I guess they're doing a sequel.
With?
No, it's going to be an all new cast.
Okay, I was going to say with, what's her name? Kaya
I forget.
Scalero, something like that. And Barry Pepper, so a new cast.
New cast.
Okay.
You don't have to worry about them dying. But I guess, yeah, Paramount is gearing up to shoot a sequel to 2019's Crawl, with director Alexander Aja returning and Sam Raimi coming back to produce. The film will see a new set of characters, and it's said to be set in New York City this time around. I don't know how that's going to work. Are they going to do like the alligators in the sewer, like legend?
That was like the urban legend, man, years ago.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. We'll see.
And I was kind of looking up, like, that movie made the first Crawl made like 90 million.
It was a pretty solid hit, right?
Yeah. Especially it was made for like 13.
Yeah.
Something like that. This is some exciting news. I'm pretty sure you're a big fan of him. But Blue Ruin and Green Room director Jeremy Saulnier is back with a new film called Rebel Ridge. The trailer is out now, and it stars Aaron Pierre, Don Johnson, and Anna Sophia Robb. It's a Netflix exclusive.
I saw that like pop up in the YouTube feed, but I never watched it. That's Saulnier, right?
Yes.
Cool. Oh, I'm stoked because Don Johnson's in it. He's my man.
Yeah.
But cool. I was wondering because he had like some good flicks, and then he did that Netflix one. Hold the Dark?
Yes.
I was kind of like, this is okay,
Mm-hmm.
but it wasn't nearly as good as Blue Ruin and Green Room.
Mm-hmm.
And then he hadn't made a movie since. I know that he did some of the episodes for that third season of True Detective.
Yep.
But he hadn't made a movie since, right?
Nope.
Since Hold the Dark, and that was, 6-7 years ago?
Does not feel like that long ago, but yet it has been. But yeah, Rebel Ridge.
Okay, I'll look that trailer up then.
It looks fucking solid.
Okay.
Check it out. Little kind of revenge thriller.
Hey man, Blue Ruin is fantastic.
Yep.
I remember being blown away seeing that movie, not knowing like anything about it or that this guy was going to be a really solid director. But I really love Blue Ruin, and that's a good revenge movie, kind of showing you that it's not always easy or clean.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of shit that you have to try to cover in order to try to pull it off.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a movie I highly recommend if anyone hasn't seen it.
Yeah. And of course, Green Room.
Green Room. I'm guessing more people have seen Green Room.
I hope so.
But yeah, Green Room obviously is fantastic.
Did you want to jump on over to our weekly recommendations?
Yeah.
I know you said you didn't necessarily have any, which is totally fine.
Not really. I can make some up on the fly, though.
Okay.
I do want to recommend Homicide, obviously.
Yeah.
Check that out. And we're talking about a guy that we've talked about before tonight. Check out Die Hard with a Vengeance. I've been watching Die Hard because Showtime's been playing all of them a lot, so I've had like Die Hard on repeat a lot. And I've always said that Die Hard 2 is kind of a lesser version of the first one.
Mm-hmm.
There's still some fun stuff in it, and there's still some great action, but it's not nearly as good as the first one. But I like what McTiernan does with the third one, where he brings it back to New York, puts him on his actual stomping grounds. He gives him a partner in Samuel L. Jackson, and the two of them have incredible chemistry with each other. And it's a lot of fun. Jeremy Irons is good. I know he's not Alan Rickman, but I think he's a fun villain. And there's lots of great action in that movie. And I don't think that movie gets talked about as much as the first Die Hard. And I'm not saying that it's as good, because it's not. You can't touch the first Die Hard. But I would skip over the second one and recommend the third one as the next in line.
I just watched With a Vengeance this past Christmas.
With a Vengeance is great. I love it. That was the first Die Hard movie I ever saw in the theater. Well,
I think...
now that I've seen the original in the theater multiple times after the fact, but that was the one I saw in the theater when it was actually out.
Yeah, like its original theatrical run.
Yeah. Great time.
That's the first Die Hard movie that I saw.
And probably because it's about, your age when you were getting into film, when you were getting into films with your grandparents.
Yep. Yes.
So I recommend that one. And again, like him and Sam Jackson are so much fucking fun together in that movie.
That
was it. Because I haven't been watching a whole lot, and even the stuff I've seen has just been like in passing, and I really haven't given a shit.
Okay. Since we're doing Summer of Sci-Fi, I was on Netflix the other night and I rewatched Life.
The Gyllenhaal movie, right?
From 2017.
Yeah.
Did you watch it?
Yeah.
You like it?
I've seen it. It's good. It's not great.
Okay.
There's some things, but it works pretty well with some of the tension.
I didn't remember much of it
Mhm.
because it's been a few years, and I had only seen it once in the theater. But rewatching it, I had a lot of fun. I think it has a solid cast. I know you're not a fan of Ryan Reynolds.
No, can I give a spoiler alert?
Sure.
He dies fairly early on. So I was at least
I remember
happy.
I can remember that about that movie. That you were like, well, I wasn't mad about going to see it because he dies right away.
I think it's safe to say I haven't watched Deadpool and Wolverine, and I really don't give a fuck too.
Will you ever?
Probably. I've never seen any of the Deadpool movies. I just don't care because I'm not a Ryan Reynolds fan.
Okay.
Sorry.
It's okay.
He's not my guy. He's the same fucking character in every single movie. I just don't care.
It's okay.
I know that movie's doing huge business right now, and a lot of people are loving it, which is good because like a lot of people shit on Sean Levy in the beginning for being the director of it. They're like, oh, he's just like some middle of the road like PG guy, or whatever. But he delivered them a huge fucking hit, and I know that he's worked with Reynolds a few times, so they obviously have a good rapport.
And probably saved Marvel's ass.
Yeah,
because they were not doing well before this.
Yeah. So, good for them. No, I'm not talking shit on, like, anyone involved. Ryan Reynolds is just my guy, and I don't give a shit about Deadpool, and I'm not going to watch Deadpool and Wolverine. And I like to believe that the last Wolverine movie was Logan. That's a good ending. I'll stay there. Have you watched it, though?
I have.
Okay.
I have. I thought it was great. And they don't really... They're not messing with the timeline of Logan. They don't cancel anything out. It's
because it's all alternate, like multiverse shit, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Pretty much. So yeah, that movie's safe.
Yeah. Someone recommended it to me, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm not going to bother." So go on about life, dude.
I had a good time with it. Jake Gyllenhaal, Rebecca Ferguson. How do you say Sonata's first name? Hiroyuki?
Yeah, Hiroyuki Sanada.
Yeah.
That's my man.
It's fucking good.
Watch Shogun. It fucking rules.
Basically the film is about like astronauts in space. They've it's like an international spacecraft. They are kind of experimenting with the first signs of life on Mars. Right? And things turn deadly for that crew, unfortunately. And it's a solid little body horror film. Thought it was good. And it looks like the effects, I think, really like have, because it's from 2017 already, they still look pretty beautiful. If you're into that type of film, check it out. Live on Netflix.
Yeah. I would give it a rewatch. I've rewatched it once or twice since I saw it in 2017. But yeah, it's a good movie.
So, movie focus of the week: Summer Sci-Fi. Talking Predator.
Predator, movie I love.
It's rated R. It's from 1987. Sci-fi action flick. Runs at 1 hour and 47 minutes. Written by Jim and John Thomas. Directed by John McTiernan, as we said earlier. Starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, Carl Weathers, Bill Duke, Richard Chives, Jesse Ventura, Shane Black, and Sonny Landham. The film tells the story of a group of mercenaries who are tasked with a rescue mission deep in the jungle. They soon also find themselves hunted by an extraterrestrial being, making for one hell of a showdown. The original idea for the film came from screenwriters Jim and John Thomas, who wanted to tell a story about a group of hunters who visit Earth to seek worthy game. After some fine-tuning, the plot was broken down to a single alien hunter who decides to hunt down human beings instead. At this time, the pair of screenwriters were inexperienced and struggled to grab a studio's attention, eventually catching the eye of 20th Century Fox and famed producer Joel Silver, who created the vision of a big-budget action film. Silver would then go on to hire director John McTiernan and give us his first big Hollywood debut. Once casting was done, shooting began in late March of 1986 in various jungles located in Mexico. The production took place over a few weeks with a few delays, forcing the production to extend. The weather was just as rough as the terrain, with many of the cast and crew stating how it was a very hard and terrible experience. While shooting was underway, the crew wasn't sure what the actual predator would look like, and the first attempt was a surprisingly silly-looking creature. Which brings me to perhaps the most interesting part of this production. Famed actor Jean-Claude Van Damme was cast as the creature. At this time, he wasn't a megastar and complained constantly about the suit, leading him to be fired, while the crew opted to redesign the suit entirely. With reshoots causing the film's budget to rapidly increase, the studio decided to bring in special effects expert Stan Winston to design the new look of the creature. While in the company of director James Cameron, Winston fleshed out the look of the new iconic Predator. The new suit upgrade and hiring experienced suit effects actor Kevin Peter Hall proved to be a magical pairing for everyone. Alan Silvestri was already beloved for his score on Back to the Future, and his work on the Predator was just as phenomenal, helping bring the iconic themes and building the atmosphere we've all come to know so well over the years. Released on June 12, 1987, Predator opened at number 1 and grossed $98 million worldwide during its theatrical run. Despite mixed reviews during its release, it's no secret that the film has been universally seen as a milestone for both action and sci-fi genres. The franchise has spawned several sequels, video games, graphic novels, and spin-offs, and is still going strong with another one on the way within the next few years. Predator is at its core a pretty simple premise that works so well, especially when you think about the year it was shot and how I'm sure the effects were incredibly tricky to pull off. But the stars aligned and the result is one kick-ass, timeless piece of cinema history. 5 choppas out of 5. Thank you.
Good write-up as always. I should have taken notes during that because as you were reading, I was like, oh, I want to comment on that. I want to comment on that. I want to comment on that. So off the top of my head, the suit. Have you seen the original design for that suit?
Yeah, it was fucking ridiculous.
It was ridiculous. It looks like a fucking praying mantis.
Yeah.
It looks so stupid. I can't believe that they decided that they were going to start production with that suit.
That they shot some stuff with it.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
The redesign, so much better.
Like fucking killer.
Like, did they not have the budget to do anything, or did they not have the time to think up anything? Because that first suit is so fucking dumb.
Well, the sketches I saw of the first suit are a lot better than the execution.
Okay.
Right? Because I seen some footage of like that they actually shot, and it's just like looks like foam, like it wasn't done all the way, and it's so weird. And then you look at the final product and you're like, there's no comparison here.
Yeah.
Like, would they have gone through with the, like if Jean-Claude was cool, would they have just went with that? And we would never have gotten.
This movie would not be what it is today if the original suit was there.
It's been forgotten.
Yeah. It would have been like some cheesy, like Schwarzenegger B movie.
Yep.
I think the design of the suit and the look of the creature and everything make this movie, it elevates it.
Yeah.
Not that there wasn't a bunch of other cool shit that's in this movie and a bunch of great action, but like the look of the Predator really elevates it.
Yeah, the reveal, like taking off the mask, it's just something that's ingrained in so many of our minds.
Yeah.
And it's no wonder why it was it didn't win, but for its year it was nominated for best special effects, right?
They had a weird thing with the Oscars where they didn't know whether they should nominate it for special effects or for like makeup. And let me jump ahead in my notes here. Nominated for an Academy Award in Best Visual Effects, although its nomination was a source of some confusion because the practical effects used to achieve the Predator's look suggested like best makeup.
Mm-hmm.
But the special effects used to create the invisibility and like the heat vision would put it into the visual effects category. though Stan Winston and his team were nominated in the visual effects category, they ended up losing to the team that did the effects for Joe Dante's Inner Space, an underrated film. If you haven't checked it out, Inner Space is one of those ones I grew up watching a lot of. However, in the makeup category, while we're here, I might as well just get this out of the way. In the makeup category, Harry and the Hendersons won using the same technique that was used to create the Predator, basically, like the suit and the I don't want to say appliances, on the face, but
yeah, God, what's
prosthetics,
prosthetics,
the prosthetics and everything. And fun fact,
Kevin
Peter Hall plays the Sasquatch in Harry and the Hendersons. Also plays the Predator here.
Yep.
And we should point out that he's probably like 2 feet taller than Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Yeah.
Because Van Damme's a short dude.
Yep.
And this was, you said that like he wasn't who he was yet. This was the year before, like Bloodsport and Kickboxer. It's like a year or two before that.
Yeah, I think he's a kind of an unknown.
Yeah,
at the time, right?
Yeah, he was just like a martial artist that was in some circles. But it's like Kickboxer and Bloodsport and a shitty movie called Cyborg all came out within about the same year span of each other, like in the late 80s, 88, 89, somewhere around there. And like that's kind of what made him a bigger star. And speaking of Van Damme, really quick, I just want to say, Hard Target is awesome. I saw some publications saying that was a shitty movie, or it's like one of the best like bad movies. I was like, Hard Target's not bad. Hard Target rules.
Yeah, and why did they? If it's so bad, why did it get like some special 4K release?
Yeah, it's awesome. His mullet is kick ass in that movie.
It's a good movie.
It's like John Woo's first American film. It's so much fun. The action's great. Lance Henriksen is so fucking good as the villain. Even Arnold Vosloo is great as his right-hand guy.
Yes. Yeah. He's scary. He's great.
But I just wanted to shout that out because I did flip through something and saw, and they were ranking like, the best like shitty movies or whatever. And I was thinking like, why is Hard Target on that list? Like, that's bad, dude. Hard Target's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Also on that list, Big Trouble in Little China. So whoever wrote this list is a fucking moron. Because Big Trouble in Little China rules too.
CJ, stop writing shitty articles.
So apparently he was kind of a douche on set in Predator. Also was kind of complaining because I guess he thought he was going to be in that suit like doing martial arts and shit.
And he didn't have any experience like wearing stuff like that.
Yeah.
So obviously it's going to be overwhelming. They're dealing with weird weather elements, in
the terrain of the jungle and everything.
Yeah.
It's not going to be easy. You're going to try to do some jump kick or something and end up like breaking your ankle when you land funny on a slope.
Of course, yeah.
So yeah, that wasn't going to work. I still can't believe like that look of it. Every time I like watch the video, like the behind the scenes video when they're talking about like the design, yeah, it looks so fucking weird.
And did you, in your research, did it come up that I guess Van Damme supposedly he thought that the final image was going to be like the green? I guess they had like the orange, like an orange version of that praying mantis suit that he thought was going to be in the final cut of.
Like the orange version. No, the orange version was so that they could do the special effects.
The chroma key stuff, yeah.
Yeah, the chroma key. He thought the orange was going to like...
He thought that was like the final, like...
You're in the jungle. It's supposed to be camouflage. That's why hunters are supposed to wear like orange vests so that someone doesn't like blast them while they're out there.
You know what I say to this? Don't do cocaine, kids. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look up the production of Street Fighter, okay? And then come talk to me.
Was he on coke during Hard Target?
I don't know.
I hope not. Probably was. But honestly, it makes that movie better if he was.
I mean, he fights a snake. You remember that?
He punches the snake. He knocks him out. I remember like watching that with my parents, and like they kind of couldn't grasp it. And I didn't know John Woo yet. It wasn't until like Broken Arrow when I started like seeing like the John Woo like Hong Kong flicks.
Yeah, they couldn't grasp Hard Target. Really?
They were just like, there's like dumb shit that's happening. They were the same thing with like Desperado too, because Desperado takes a lot of its cues from like John Woo.
Yeah, because they're flying.
They're like jumping and like shooting and everything, and they kind of didn't get like the whole John Woo aesthetic.
Mm-hmm.
And they were just like, what? Like, they liked it because it was action, and my mom was a huge action fan. My dad as well, but my mom was always, like, way into, like, the action stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember them just kind of being like, you know, they were, like, you know, jumping up and down and doing this and, like, shooting behind the back, and in Desperado, at least. And they just, like, didn't get it. And but I was like, you know, I'm like 12, 13 years old. And I was like, that movie kicked so much ass. It was the best movie I've ever seen. So, I mean, if he was on coke, yeah, it's awesome. Watch it because he fights a snake, and Wilford Brimley's in it, and he has a Cajun accent. It's just like it's so bananas, but it's so much fucking. It's like Roadhouse.
Yeah,
like it's so much fucking fun because it's over the top.
Yeah.
But, like, everything works to make it such a fun film.
It's just one of those movies, like, just like Roadhouse, it came out at the perfect time.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I just know that it looked dumb. It's cumbersome. He doesn't get to do what he wants in it. And I guess he was just kind of an asshole on set. So it was kind of, like, worked out for the best to get rid of him, get rid of the suit, do a redesign, and hire someone who had experience working in that suit.
Before we jump off the topic of Van Damme, have you heard the rumors that he kind of he was like a secret like stunt double for Schwarzenegger?
In Predator?
Yes.
I did not know that, but I mean Schwarzenegger's got like a good foot on him, probably.
Yeah,
unless it's like, you know, far away shots.
Yeah, there's some rumors that he kind of he stepped in for some stuff during the final battle when he's in the mud. Like I said, they're just rumors. It's not confirmed, but it's like something that's out there in the universe that people think this. I was just curious if you knew anything more than I did.
Did not know that. Kind of think that's bullshit just because Schwarzenegger's size.
Yeah.
He's much bigger than Van Damme. But what else are we going to talk about? Let's talk John McTiernan.
Okay.
As I've said, this is a director that we've covered before in one of my all-time favorite episodes you and I did, which was Die Hard, our very first Christmas episode, which was 7 years ago now. It's been a while since we did that first Christmas episode. We have a good movie coming up for you this Christmas, I sure hope. I mean, it is a good movie. I just hope that people enjoy the movie as a Christmas episode. But John McTiernan, this is his second film, his first real studio movie. He does a movie called Nomads with Pierce Brosnan, which is his first movie. But like, starting with this movie, he makes 3 absolute banger action classics. He makes Predator. He makes Die Hard. He makes The Hunt for Red October. You and I will complete this trilogy someday because we will definitely talk about The Hunt for Red October. This is one of my favorite movies. I just rewatched it not too long ago. Love it. So he makes these 3 movies, like really cementing his status. I mean, Predator alone or even Die Hard alone would have done it. But he has like this fucking incredible 3-movie run with those 3 films. And then kind of has a bit of a fall off. Because he makes a movie with Connery. He reteams with Connery from Hunt for Red October. He does a movie called Medicine Man, which is not a good movie. And then I don't think it was a big hit at all. But then he follows that up with Last Action Hero, which is a very divisive movie, which you and I enjoy. And I think was ahead of its time. But just was kind of seen as, I don't want to say a flop, because I don't think it lost money.
It just didn't really.
It just wasn't that big of a hit, and some people didn't know what to do with it because of the meta qualities in it. but he re-teams him with Schwarzenegger, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking Predator. The Mummy's been on behind us for like the last like hour or something. So if you see me going like that, it's probably because like Rachel Weisz is on screen or something.
Okay.
But after Last Action Hero, which is debatable whether it's a flop or not, he re-teams with Bruce Willis, does the third Die Hard movie, which is a huge movie, huge hit, and kind of brings it back, kind of gets his mojo back for a little bit. We can talk about the 3-picture run that he does with Last Action Hero, Die Hard with a Vengeance, and then what might be his best underrated movie is the Thomas Crown Affair remake, which is a fantastic film. And Pierce Brosnan and Rene Russo have such great chemistry. That's such a good movie. I like it better than the original movie, my opinion. I think that's a pretty sizable hit. I'm not the only person to say this, but it's kind of like a stealth Bond movie. Like, because Pierce Brosnan was in his James Bond run during that time. And it's not a James Bond movie, obviously, but he's this very cool, very suave guy. You know, he's a master thief. So it's very much like kind of a sneaky James Bond movie that you could easily lump in with the 4 other Brosnan movies. And honestly, it's probably the second best James Bond movie if you want to lump it in with those others. It's probably the second best Brosnan movie. But I think that those, whether or not you think Last Action Hero is a great movie, I think he does another solid 3-picture run with those. And then unfortunately it's all downhill from there. Because he follows that up with those, like a really long delayed 13th Warrior, which is based on the Michael Crichton novel Eaters of the Dead, which would have been a better movie if it had kept the original title.
Is that Banderas?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Banderas is bad. It's just a bad film. But they had all kinds of trouble with that movie. And I think that was a movie that was delayed. I think that was supposed to come out before the Thomas Crown Affair.
Did that even have... Was that like a theatrical release?
Yeah, because I saw it in the theater.
Oh, okay.
But I think it was supposed to be between Die Hard and Die Hard with a Vengeance and the Thomas Crown Affair, and just got so delayed and had so many reshoots and trouble on it that it ended up coming out after the Thomas Crown Affair. And it's a bad movie. I do not recommend that movie. But then he does Rollerball, the Rollerball remake, which is awful.
That I saw in the theater.
Oof.
I didn't know it was going to be shitty at the time, and I was a kid, but yeah.
It's a bad movie, and unfortunately, he's worried about the producer on that movie, so he hires this private detective to wiretap this guy illegally, and this is what gets him into big trouble and ends up getting him convicted and going to jail. Excuse me. Before that happens, his last movie that he makes is Basic, with Travolta and Samuel L. Jackson. Again, not a great movie. Has a solid cast, but unfortunately, just not a good movie. And that's the last movie that he makes. He ends up going to jail. He is convicted, I think, officially of lying to the FBI because they had asked him about the wiretapping, and he lied to the FBI. So he ends up doing a year, I think, in federal prison. Or a federal prison camp. I forget where. I'd have to look that up again. But that essentially kills his career. He said that was a very hard time for him personally. I think his wife might have been his ex-wife, because I think he was wiretapping the ex-wife too. They were going through a divorce, and I think that's another thing that ends up getting them into trouble. The same guy, the same private detective, Anthony Pellicano, is wiretapping his ex-wife, or soon-to-be ex-wife. So that sucks, because he was a very great action director. We're talking about a very great action film. We've talked about Die Hard. Like, the direction of those, especially the action scenes, is awesome. So it kind of sucks that that's how his career ended, with a string of shitty movies and then him going to jail, and he hasn't made a movie since.
What would have happened if he would have admitted what he was doing?
He probably wouldn't have gone to jail.
Like a slap on the wrist type of deal?
Maybe a fine. Maybe probation.
Okay.
I can't speak on the actual legal.
I was just curious.
Predicament. I don't know for sure, but if he didn't lie to them and admitted that he had hired this guy and this is what they're up to, probably would have got lesser
sentence.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or they would have traded his testimony to convict Pelicano. So that's kind of a bummer because I think he was a really great director, and I would love to see him make another movie. You and I will be talking to Hunt for Red October at some point in time.
Okay.
I love that movie. So we will complete that trilogy, and it would be fun to revisit Last Action Hero. You mentioned Jim and John Thomas, who wrote the screenplay. They also wrote Predator 2, which, like Die Hard 2, is a pretty solid movie, just not nearly at the level as the original. But I love me some Danny Glover, and it's got some great action in it.
I think it boils down to, like, Predator 2 is a lot of fun, especially to bring the Predator character into, like, an urban setting.
Yeah.
Obviously, for that time, it was pretty epic, right? But then you don't have, I feel like, quite as good of character building.
Yeah.
The way that you do in the original Predator, where it's kind of a little bit more sloppy, but still fun.
It's an okay movie. I've never hated that movie either. And I, again, love Danny Glover.
Bill Paxton.
Bill Paxton is great in it. It's a solid movie. It's got solid action. It's just when you watch, because Joelle and I did this years ago, where we watched like Predator and then Predator 2, like at my house one night. It was kind of like, oh, we watched those in the wrong order. We should have watched Predator second, because it's just kind of you're deflated when you watch the second one, because it's like, oh, it's okay, but it's not nearly as good as the first one. And you don't have to watch them in any order because they really don't have anything to do beyond like a mention that Gary Busey has about, something that happened in the jungle a decade ago. So they both came back for the second one. And I wanted to shout out one of the other movies that they did, which is really solid flick, Executive Decision.
Oh, yeah.
Which is good Kurt Russell movie. One of the earlier Halle Berry movies. And is very famous for being like a Steven Seagal movie where he dies in the first act.
Yeah, when they're doing they're like transporting people, right?
Yeah, they're in like a stealth, and they're going up. They kind of have like an airlock situation that goes up to the bottom, of the 747 that they're boarding because it's been taken over by terrorists, and they're the Navy SEAL team sent in to stop them. And yeah, Seagal, I remember like being all over that marketing for the movie. And then you see the movie and it's like, oh shit, like he died, because that's like at the height of his career. And then he dies, but he's a fucking traitor now anyways, so fuck him.
Yeah.
I remember like there was a Seagal movie on like HBO or something. I had it on in the background. I was doing something. I texted Joel and I was like, "Oh, yo, man, Steven Seagal's like breaking people's legs like just for the fuck of it, like just like as a fuck you, like after he beat some guy up." He's like, "Steven Seagal, that guy's a fucking traitor to this country," because he's all about Putin and he's like living in Russia now.
Really?
Yeah. So, Executive Decision. Check that movie out. It's good. It's got another solid cast. But then they write Wild Wild West and Mission to Mars, which I've always been on record as saying is probably the worst fucking De Palma movie I've ever seen. And it was a big budget sci-fi movie. I remember, like, because I'm thinking about that De Palma documentary. I think he said that he had such a shitty time making that, that's when he kind of decided that, you know what, I'm done with Hollywood. I'm moving to France. And he has made some movies since. Not great movies. But the movie that he makes right after that is Femme Fatale.
Oh.
Which I've told you before is kind of a good throwback movie. The problem is the casting in that movie just doesn't work. And if it had someone better than Banderas, who is a good actor, just bad in that movie, and Rebecca Romijn, who just unfortunately isn't that strong of an actor, I think if those two main roles had been someone else, I think that would have been a good movie. Or at least a good like throwback to like, you know, his earlier like thrillers like from the late 70s and 80s.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I think that's Mission to Mars is when he decides that he's going to go and just do his own thing in France. And, you know, he made that shitty Black Dahlia movie that was all shot like in Bulgaria or something.
I saw that.
That's a bad movie.
Speaking of Josh Hartnett.
Yep.
Again.
So, you know, they write a couple of good movies, they write a couple of bad movies. And I don't think they've done anything since. Or at least anything of note since. But they as you said in your write-up, they get the attention of Joel Silver, who, if you don't know Joel Silver, big Hollywood producer, still working. But before Predator, he had done 48 Hours, he had done Streets of Fire, like a cult movie that you and I kind of like. Commando, who he had just done Commando. The same year as Predator, earlier in the year, he does Lethal Weapon. And then, you know, right after Predator, Die Hard, Roadhouse, does The Matrix, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, because he knows Shane Black.
Mm-hmm.
So he's a big producer on it.
Even more to think about something a little more contemporary. He worked with Shane Black again for the Nice Guys, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
He produced the Nice Guys.
That's in my notes. Right after Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, yep. And Shane Black, who's in the movie as an actor, is kind of there as like as a script doctor.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, they kind of want him close to be a script doctor, but then what I had read in my research was kind of that the script that they were working with, the shooting script, was pretty solid, that he didn't have to do a whole lot of work on it, and I think that's why he gets killed first.
Mm-hmm.
Just because they're just like, this is pretty good, we don't really need you, so we're going to kill your character first.
Do you think, can you see any kind of hints of his writing in Predator?
I would almost guarantee that the two bad jokes that he tells, the one about the I'd like a little pussy, and the
one where he's talking to, he tells it to Sonny, right?
Yeah. It was on, like, just when you and I, like, sat down when we got here. Oh, geez, you got a big pussy.
Yes.
I'm almost guaranteed that those are Shane Black jokes. They seem like very of his style.
He's like, you know, because of the echo?
Yeah. And he might have contributed some other stuff. But if you ask me like what he contributed, I'm almost like certain like that those two jokes seem very Shane Black. So I like that Shane Black's in it. I think it's pretty funny, knowing that he's a good screenwriter and being like so in love with Nice Guys and Kiss Kiss Bang Bang and obviously The Long Kiss Goodnight, Lethal Weapon. But also, like, being the first guy who dies, does he have the most brutal death? It's off screen, but the amount of blood that like splashes on Elpidia Carrillo's face is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
On Hannah's face.
They leave a lot to the imagination, but yeah, I feel like it is a pretty brutal death.
It's like you just see all that blood splash, and then you see the creature drag Hawkins off. And then when they're looking for him, like Pancho finds him, and Dutch is asking, hey, did you find him? He's like, I think so, because it's like guts, basically.
He's like, I'm not sure, man.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
He's like really shaken up by it.
Yeah.
But I there's some good kills in the movie, but I'd argue that even though it's mainly off screen, like Shane Black probably gets the worst kill.
Which is so funny that A few years ago, I remember NECA just did a randomly. It just was a Hawkins figure from Predator. And I was like, what? Okay.
Did they do the others?
No.
Just the Hawkins.
Literally just him.
It's like a cult character.
Yeah.
Hey man, that's pretty cool. Does he have what accessories did he come with?
The backpack, the glasses, the weapons, everything, pretty much.
The comic books, even though the comic books, no, they do make an appearance because he's reading them in the helicopter.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say you see him at the end, like during the credit sequence, like reading it.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, he is reading it in the helicopter. I was wondering, does it come with the comic book? Kind of like someone years and years ago would give me like Reservoir Dog, like Mr. Blonde action figure, and he comes with like a soda.
Oh yeah, yeah. Did he have the gas tank?
Yes, the gas tank and like the soda. Shane Black is there. He's there as a possible screenwriter, just in case they need him. Obviously, they didn't.
Uncredited, right?
Uncredited screenwriter, yeah. But in my notes, I also have that for a moment before they chose McTiernan, they were thinking of a director by the name of Jeff Murphy, who's an Australian guy, or a New Zealand director, excuse me. And he wasn't really well known at the time. He had done a movie called Utu, which was about a Maori warrior looking for revenge. And then a movie called The Quiet Earth about 3 survivors of the apocalypse. So, something like he had that kind of sci-fi. I haven't seen either of those movies, so I don't know. But he had something of like a sci-fi pedigree. So they were looking to have him direct, and then they chose McTiernan. I haven't seen Nomads either, so I can't speak on what they saw in Nomads that they wanted to hire him. I'm glad that they did, because he's a very good director, as we've established. But Jeff Murphy also goes on, does Young Guns 2, does Free Jack, Under Siege 2. Young Guns 2 is pretty good. Free Jack, Under Siege 2, not great. Mediocre. But he's actually very famously well known because he was the second unit director on all 3 of the Lord of the Rings films, which shot in New Zealand.
Okay.
So, good for him. I have a story for you. It's not in my notes. You want to know how I came across this movie? The first time I ever saw it?
Yes.
Did not see it in the 80s. I knew of it. I know the very famous poster, like the artwork of Schwarzenegger, like in the crosshairs, basically. After the NBA Finals, without fail, every single year, NBC would play Predator. Every single year. Like, because I was way into basketball when I was in junior high and high school. I was always watching like the NBA Finals, and because it was the early 90s, the Bulls were the team, and I was a huge Bulls fan because I was always a huge Michael Jordan fan. And every year I'd be watching the NBA Finals, and then after the game, because it's very hard to program stuff when you're doing live sports events or live events, because it could run over, so you don't have like something programmed. You just slot something in whenever the sports event ends. And every single year, I shit you not, NBC played Predator after the NBA Finals. Like whenever the game was over, or the last game, whatever it was, championship, Predator would be on. And I was always like watching the finals, and then like after the game, I'd be like, oh shit, like Predator, and I would just like watch Predator. So for like 3 or 4 years in a row, every single June, I was watching like Predator. Albeit it was cut up. They cut the violence and the cursing and everything out. Like the really hardcore violence and the cursing out. I had no idea that Carl Weathers loses an arm until I saw it a few years later. uncut, because they obviously cut around it on the broadcast. But yeah, that's how I saw it originally, was on NBC every single year.
That's pretty funny.
I don't know what it was about Predator, if they're just like, this is the demographic that's watching basketball right now, they're going to love this movie when we play it afterwards. I have no idea what the thinking was.
Back in the day, do you remember, like, after the Oscars, would they also do the same thing where they slot something randomly?
No, they would go to local news, because the Oscars would always run, like, they started like at 5 o'clock or something. They always went to like 10 or some crazy, because they always run super long. So they would always, it would be like local news or like a Dateline or some shit that they could just like put in. Or that's 2 separate networks, but whatever.
Yeah.
You know, something like that, like a 2020, I think, is ABC's version of Dateline.
Because I can remember one year, I think it's a worthy story, and it kind of harkens back to something we've brought up already in this episode. But I remember my grandmother one year, and I had to be, I don't know, 10 to 12 years old, right? The Oscars are just ending. I know she's never been a fan. My grandmother's never been a fan of those shows. She thinks they're boring, whatever. Waits for them to get over. I think this was like before we had cable, right? Waiting to see what they were going to play. And this one time, I remember vividly, they just randomly were showing Hard Target. And she was like, this is what the Academy gives us, this shitty fucking Van Damme movie. Thanks a lot. And I remember, I'm just like, what's wrong with this? This movie's awesome.
Yeah.
And it just kind of goes back to that joke from earlier. But yeah, that's a real thing that happened. They just have randomly programmed Hard Target.
I wonder like what year that was.
I wish I remembered more, but I do. I have that vivid memory, man.
Yeah, it's like good programming. Gives you something interesting to watch when the show's over.
Yep.
But yeah, that's how I saw Predator for the very first time, was after the NBA Finals, sometime in like the late 80s or early 90s on TV. And it wasn't until, probably a few years later when I got to see it uncut.
I think my first experience with the Predator would have been, from my recollection at least, is Predator 2. Saw Predator 2 first. I remember...
I think maybe I did as well. Yeah, because Predator 2 came out in 1990, and that was... I was still seeing, like, the NBA Finals and everything, so yeah, you and I both.
Yeah. Because I remember again, vividly, like, that Rastafarian fight, right? But seeing Predator maybe a few years after that, because of my grandfather, kind of, I remember we started slowly building our VHS collection at the time, and he was like going back and buying all the classics that he loved, and I remember Predator was one that we sat down and we'll watch together, and he fucking loves that. Loved the movie. But yeah, and I remember that that score, the Predator score.
The Predator score is so fucking awesome.
Yeah.
It does not get the love that it should. I mean, in your write-up, like you said, Back to the Future is what Silvestri is going to be known for, because that score is very iconic. I think Predator is almost as fucking good as the Back to the Future score. So you say that you think that it's underrated, but in my research, I was reading that that initial run when they, however many years later, they finally released the CD, right? Supposedly that sold out when it happened in its initial run. Good, because it means a lot of people appreciate that score. It's so good, and I don't think that it gets as much recognition as it should. Yes, absolutely. Where's my notes? I just want to tell you some other scores that Silvestri did. obviously Back to the Future. He's been Zemeckis' guy for a long time. I think he scored every single one of his films going back to here it is, Romancing the Stone. Silvestri has scored every single one of Robert Zemeckis' movie. I was wondering if he won an Oscar for the Forrest Gump score. I should have looked that up in my notes, and I apologize for not doing that. I think that he did.
Okay.
But I could be wrong. But yeah, some other ones that he did. The Abyss. Great movie. James Cameron. The Quick and the Dead. Sam Raimi movie. I know that you've covered on this podcast before.
Yep.
The Long Kiss Goodnight. One of our favorite movies. One that we obviously have covered on this podcast before. And The Avengers. I think his Avengers theme is pretty well known. That might be the music that you hear during the Marvel logo that comes up now before the movies.
Oh, the crawl.
Yeah, I think the music that you hear is the Avengers score, or a part of the Avengers score. I've only seen that movie once, so I don't know it too well. But I think that is his score that pops up in their Marvel studio logo. Speaking of score, Michael Kamen was originally set to score, and he had just done Lethal Weapon with Silver. Obviously, he does Die Hard. We've spoken about the score for Die Hard. But he was unable to do it because he was scoring Adventures in Babysitting at the time. So check out Adventures in Babysitting. That's a fun movie. But it's McTiernan who hires Silvestri to do the score because obviously he loved the Back to the Future score. So good for him. Predator score rules. I should look up to see if I can pick that up on a CD, if that's still in print somewhere.
I think I could.
Or vinyl, whatever.
I could be wrong. I think the CDs go for a pretty penny right now.
If I gotta look on Discogs and pay like $300 for it or something.
Maybe not that much, but we're talking maybe like $45, $50.
Maybe for a CD. Vinyl, definitely I'll pay that much. I have a quote from Schwarzenegger about the movie. About the script, actually. The first thing I look for in a script is a good idea. The majority of scripts are rip-offs of other movies. People think they can become successful overnight. They sat down one weekend and wrote a script because they heard Stallone did that with Rocky. Predator was one of the scripts I read, and it bothered me in one way. It was just me and the alien. So we redid the whole thing, and it was a team of commandos, and then I liked the idea. I thought it would make a much more effective movie and be much more believable. I liked the idea of starting out with an action adventure and then coming in with some horror and some science fiction. And that was always the thing that Joel and I liked about it was kind of like, it's like a sci-fi movie, an action movie, but it's also like a sneaky horror movie.
Yeah.
Like a sneaky slasher movie, because they kind of get picked off like one by one. They don't really know what they're dealing with.
And it takes a while for the movie to get there.
Yeah.
It's almost like
it's an action movie to start.
It's like a hybrid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they are hired to go in and rescue a group of guys that got captured or had disappeared going over the border. They're in, some Central American country. I don't know if that's specified.
I don't think that is specified.
I think they look on a map and it's like
the coordinates or whatever.
Yeah. Like Panama, Nicaragua, somewhere, something like that. So they get hired to come in and rescue these guys. And obviously there's the very famous opening, or not the opening, but when Dylan and Mac, not Mac, Dutch, first meet.
Again,
yeah, but like when they first meet up in the movie, there's the very famous
"You son of a bitch."
the very famous like handshake where they're just like flexing muscles.
Mm-hmm.
They're just like super cut, like the big biceps
Glistening.
bulging. It's something that whenever, and this is crazy to me, right? Whenever I meet up with Mark, Joel's brother, we always do that. Always do like the clasp and then, like flex and everything and like hold it for like way longer than we should. But for crazy, Mark told me he had never seen Predator. He just knew that scene. And I said, you gotta be shitting me, dude. Like, you grew up same as I did, same as Joel did. Like, how did you miss this fucking movie? He didn't watch it until like 2 years ago.
Seriously?
Dead serious.
And you guys have been doing that joke?
Yeah, he knew that joke. We've been doing that since 20 years ago, 25 years ago almost, probably. Had never seen the movie.
What does he think of it?
He loves it. He thinks it's great. But, like, I was talking to him. It was his son's first birthday. So, 2022. We were talking, and I was talking about, like, Predator or something. He's like, dude, you know what? Like, I've never seen Predator. I was like, you gotta be fucking kidding me, dude. He's like, yeah, I've never seen Predator. I was like, how do you know that scene? He's like, just, like, through pop culture. All right, I've seen, like, pieces, but I've never seen the actual movie. I was like, Jesus Christ, dude, tell me like you've seen like Aliens. Tell me you've seen RoboCop. He's like, I've seen Aliens. I don't think I've seen RoboCop. I was like, what the fuck, dude? How did you make it this far in life? How did your brother see all these movies? You guys hung out with the same people. Our mutual friend, Chris Asakawa, who's the one that like was always into a lot of those flicks and everything, and like I know that he introduced Joel to a couple movies that Joel hadn't seen when he was younger, because they had been hanging out when they knew each other when they were younger, like before I knew them in high school. Mm-hmm. They had known each other when they were like elementary school age. So I was like, you hung out with Chris Asakawa? Like, how did you not see this movie? Because these are movies that like we watch all the time and we reference all the time, and I can always like text like either one of those guys like, some line from the movie, and they'll respond to me with like some other line from the movie, or we'll talk some shit about this thing or something. They're like, how did you not see that movie? He's like, I don't know, dude, I haven't seen it. So a couple months after that party, I remember he had caught COVID at that point in time, and he was just chilling. And like then he sat down to like watch Predator because he couldn't go anywhere. He was out of work for a week or 5 days, whatever it was. Mm-hmm. And then that's when he saw Predator. I was like, so you finally like watched fucking Predator like 30 years too late. What did you think about it? And he's like, oh yeah, dude, it was awesome. It was a great movie. I was like, well, I guess we gotta get you to watch like RoboCop now. So that's my little funny aside about the whole handshake thing. How I do that with, one of my best friends all the time, and he hadn't seen that movie that it actually came from.
That must have blew your mind.
Oh my god, dude. It was like, dude, you're in your mid-40s. Like, you grew up exactly at the right time. Like, how did you not see that movie? Especially knowing that, like, I had seen it, Joel had seen it, Asakawa had seen it. We all, like, hung out, and I can't believe you hadn't seen it.
It's kind of like you would have thought he would have seen it even by accident at that point.
Yeah.
Somewhat.
How did you not see that movie? As a teenager, they get roped into this mission. And, Dutch isn't happy about it because Dylan's coming with them. But he says, we're a rescue squad. We're not assassins, we're a rescue squad. And that whole, not really first act, because it goes a little bit further. It's about halfway through the movie before it kind of turns into a horror movie, or, a horror adjacent movie. Turns into like more sci-fi, but they have the raid on that compound, which is like a straight fucking action scene. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. great action, some great one-liners in it. I read that the stick around line was an improvisation from Schwarzenegger. Even the Jesse Ventura quote about he doesn't have time to bleed.
That's funny.
I don't have time to bleed.
And he's all, okay.
Yeah. Poncho just gives him that look.
Got time to duck? Or...
In my research, I read though, like the whole minigun that Ventura carries around is like they had to rig it so that it actually shot slower than it really does.
Oh, because it wouldn't photograph?
It wouldn't photograph. Like it shoots so fast, or the barrel spins so fast that they had to actually slow it down so that you can see it on camera. It's got a great cast of tough guys, like big tough dudes. And apparently, like, they were all kind of, like, trying to one-up each other, like, trying to work out and, like, get bigger and bigger.
They, I read a story that I think it was Carl Weathers that said this, that they would all secretly get up at, like, 3 or 4 a.m. and be working out, like, away from each other. So then, like, none of them knew that they were actually trying to get, like, they were, like, trying to enhance themselves while still in this production, right? And I guess that's what Carl Weathers like would just wait until everyone was not paying attention or not around and then work out, but he would like present himself like if he was just gifted with the body that he had naturally.
I'm gonna have to watch like the Rocky movies again because he's fucking huge in Predator. Was he always that big when he was Apollo Creed?
From what I remember, I think he's still pretty jacked as Apollo.
Okay. Like it's been a few years since I watched Rocky, but just rewatching Predator, you know, multiple times, not just for the show, because it's a movie that I watch quite a lot of, especially if it's playing like on cable or something. It's like I'm like Die Hard is playing like right now on Showtime a lot, so it's like one of those movies I'll just leave on while I'm doing shit. And just like rewatching it in the last few months, and then again for the show, I'm just like, whoa, like, he's fucking big. Was he always that big?
When he has the tie, when we first meet him with Dutch,
yeah,
again, and he's all, and they do they're going back to the handshake, and then Dutch is like, "What's the matter? Are you pushing too many pencils or whatever?" Just like.
They're like just flexing. By the way, Joel bought me a patch that's literally that handshake.
Oh yeah,
it's just like the handshake, and it says like "You son of a bitch."
Oh man,
he bought me that for Christmas one year. I thought that was a really fun gift.
It is,
but like Carl Weathers rules. Apparently, was the first choice to play Dylan, so that's cool. Jesse Ventura. A former, I don't know if he was a Navy SEAL, because I read that he wasn't exactly a Navy SEAL. He was the underwater demolitions tech, and I guess it was like two separate things. So I don't know. I'd have to go back and look that up. But.
What I read, and I could be mistaken, so don't take me. What's the correct?
I know that he went through BUDS training, which is like underwater demolition stuff. I know that much.
What I heard is that he was a experienced ex-Navy SEAL, and so everybody else hated being, in that shitty terrain, but that he was totally fine because he
was used to it from the training. Okay, I'll have to look that up to see what exactly it was, because I had heard that it wasn't necessarily a Navy SEAL. I know that he went through BUDS training just by listening to interviews with him over the years. But I'll look that up. But obviously he was a professional wrestler as well.
Yes.
Jesse the Body Ventura, right?
Yes.
Okay. He's also in The Running Man that same year with Schwarzenegger, which, again, we've talked about is kind of a lesser tier Schwarzenegger movie.
Yep.
Even though apparently that was a huge hit. Sonny Landham, who is as Billy, is very good in the movie.
He is.
Might be my favorite character.
Really?
Out of that squad? I mean, Schwarzenegger, obviously, but out of all the personalities,
He's pretty different. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. Do you know about what was going on set with him?
Wasn't he like a wild and crazy dude? And they actually had to hire security.
Yeah.
Like,
to make sure that
he didn't fuck other people up.
Yeah.
He's in 48 Hours. A few years before that, he's awesome in 48 Hours. That's another great movie. And then Bill Duke, who is in Commando with Schwarzenegger the year before, is Mac. Good actor, goes on to have a pretty solid directing career. Has an incredible debut film with Deep Cover. Great movie from 91, a movie a year that you and I have talked about like a couple of months ago. Goes on to have like a pretty successful directing career. And I just want to shout out Deep Cover because that movie's fucking really good and Lawrence Fishburne's awesome in it. And it's got a great like Dr. Dre tune. So that's who's in the cast. Richard Chavez as Pancho. I don't think he had done much, but I know he's actually former military as well. Was a Vietnam veteran. But I don't know what else he had done like kind of afterwards. Obviously Shane Black. And then Elpidia Carrillo is Anna, who is captured when they do the raid on the compound, and they take her along with them, and then she ends up, when they realize they're in deep shit, they need all the help they can get, they free her, but she's also the one that kind of adds a little bit of like the mysterious backstory to what they might be dealing with. She tells that great story about how sometimes like when the weather is like super hot, like they would find the men in the villages like without their skin, and she says sometimes like much, much worse, which is like a really like scary thought. Like how worse
can it get
if like someone is being skinned? Which they find those bodies earlier when they find the wreckage of the chopper, and then later on they found the skinned bodies of the people hanging up, the guys, some of the people that they were looking for. So she offers that backstory on it. Also, shouldn't be noted that she's the only other survivor of the predator. Something that Dutch tells her that, you know what, he didn't kill you because you weren't armed. He prevents her from, grabbing the gun when they get ambushed. Shouting some people out, the cast, because I want to make sure that they get their due, because they're all just big tough dudes. I mean, Shane Black's kind of the smaller of the group.
It's weird watching like him interviewing for that movie. He looks way different than what he looks like in the movie. Like
Shane Black?
Yeah, like his structure. Like he looks like a bigger guy, more intimidating, but then when you watch the movie, it doesn't even look like
he looks like kind of scrawny. He looks like me.
Yeah.
If I put like on fatigues.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird because he is kind of like a bigger dude. But yeah, he doesn't.
But in Predator, I've always like, that does not look like Shane Black. Even. Yeah.
And maybe it's just the costuming and the glasses and everything.
Yeah, maybe he dropped weight. I know. I think McTiernan and Schwarzenegger both dropped 25 pounds each.
McTiernan just was smart and was like,
He didn't want to eat.
I didn't want to eat. I don't want to be drinking anything. So that's why he lost the weight. Schwarzenegger lost the weight because he got ill, like most everyone else. And that's why when we talked about Total Recall last year, that's why he had his food shipped down to him when they were shooting Total Recall in Mexico, because he remembered what had happened on Predator.
Yeah.
But I was trying to pay attention to it, but then I just got too wrapped up in the movie. Apparently, because of the weight loss, he noticeably gets smaller during the film. And I wasn't paying as much of attention as I should have to see if I could spot that.
I don't think it's too much of like an eyesore. I don't think it's like noticeable enough to be distracting. That's just...
I guess if you watch like the very beginning, obviously with the handshake and everything, and then you can tell that he's a bigger dude. And I think towards the end when he has his one-on-one with the Predator, he's looking thinner there, but he's still Schwarzenegger, so he's still fucking jacked.
Yeah.
But I read in those notes that because of the weight loss, he noticeably gets thinner throughout the movie, because I think the movie they basically shot in chronological order. Oh, here we go, in my notes. Because Schwarzenegger had prior commitments that delayed the start of the filming, I think he was doing... It wasn't Commando, because Commando was done already.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he was doing the film before that.
Yeah, done...
Raw Deal, maybe? Because Raw Deal comes out 86?
Yeah, done Conan and Terminator already.
Yeah. Commando's 85. Raw Deal, I believe, is 86. But it just says prior commitments. I don't know in my notes where that came from. So Silver managed to get an uncredited rewrite of the script from Blade Runner's David Webb Peoples, who we've talked about before because he's also the screenwriter of 12 Monkeys.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously we've talked Blade Runner before as well. So I read that, and I know that they also had stopped shooting at one point because Schwarzenegger was going to go get married to Maria Shriver.
Which is fucking crazy. And I think, from what I remember, Silver personally flew him to be on time for his wedding. Just
because they're down in Mexico shooting, and they got married in Massachusetts.
That is you're throwing some weight around when you can pull that off, you know.
And it's in my notes, apparently when they went on a honeymoon, it wasn't very long, but after the wedding, they went on their honeymoon, and like the second unit does some additional filming, and then they regroup back in May, I think, of 86, and then shoot for the next month or 6 weeks, whatever it was, to finish up. So we talked about Shane Black getting the most brutal death. But then everyone else gets a fairly memorable death scene.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Ventura gets like that hole blown right through him.
It's worse when you see him on the ground.
Yeah, like when they're looking at the body later on, because you really don't see it, because it kind of like where the shot cuts off is like just above.
Yeah,
where he gets shot.
You see the blast because it's from like some kind of like ray gun or something, right? That the Predator
has. The shoulder cannon.
And then like the splurt of blood, but like you said, it's cropped.
Yeah, like where the shot cuts off is like just above where the cannon shot goes through him. Mm-hmm. But you see him, like, you see the body later on, like in the poncho, and he has like that fucking gigantic hole in his chest. But that leads to one of the best scenes in the movie. After he gets killed, Mac sees it, because Mac and Blaine are like really, really tight. Mac fires on the Predator with his M60, and then runs down and grabs the minigun and just fires, and everyone else just comes running down, not knowing what's going on, but just seeing Mac, firing blindly into the jungle, and then everyone else is just shooting into the jungle, and there's just that shot of them just like fucking shooting and shooting and shooting, and like the trees and everything are like just coming down, and it's like such a cool scene.
And then, of course, they're like showing the muscles and everything.
Yeah, the muscle, like everyone like reloading and all that. I remember like watching the film with Joel, those however many years ago that was now. And there's a scene where Schwarzenegger like walks out to go talk to Billy, and he's holding his M16 like one-handed, but it's like that's a big gun with like a grenade launcher on the bottom. Like that can't be a light gun, and he's just like holding it like one-handed. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking like, man, that's got to be heavy as hell, but also it's Schwarzenegger, so he's got the muscle. But yeah, that scene where they're just like clear-cutting the jungle by shooting at it is so fucking awesome. And apparently that was just McTiernan saying like, look at these guys like firing all these guns, but their guns aren't going to save them because they don't know what they're dealing with. This is, something much more dangerous. But he sees the after Blaine dies, Mac sees the kind of invisibility He sees the thing, the eyes glow, and they shoot at it, and then there's everything is done, everyone's done firing. Max still has his finger on the trigger, and the barrels are still spinning. And then, he like, Schwarzenegger kind of looks over at him, and then he lets go. There's that really cool scene of him just like pulling his finger off of the trigger.
Mm-hmm.
But there's the really cool line or really cool idea or concept of Pancho going to check everything out, and he's like, there's no blood, no bodies, no boot prints. He's like, we hit nothing. After they expended how many rounds into the jungle, they didn't hit anything. They didn't hurt it. Whatever was killing them, they thought it was like, a group of rebels or something. They didn't hit anything with all that firepower. And that's when they're like, whoa, like, that's shit's getting serious.
Where do you think the Predator was just watching from maybe up top somewhere?
Yeah, they figure that out later on, like when Blaine's body is there and they have all the, some booby traps set up and Max on watch, and, the pig comes through and he kills the pig, and Pancho makes that joke where he's like, oh, couldn't you have killed something a little bit bigger? He's like, fuck you. By the way, how cool is it when, like, Mac is shaving with, like, just running the razor?
He does it on the helicopter, right?
Yeah, he's doing it on the helicopter, and he does it in the jungle, like, while they're waiting. He presses so hard that the lighter snaps. Not the lighter, I was thinking Bic.
Oh, yeah.
Bic lighter, but no, like the Bic razor snaps. But yeah, after he comes in to get Blaine's body, and they can't figure out how it got in there, then Schwarzenegger kind of looks up and he's like, oh, it's using the trees to move around. That's why it can get in past our booby traps and everything. So they figure it out eventually. After they clear cut the jungle, there's a little bit of blood that Anna, sees and puts on her pant leg. And then she tells him later on, like, after he was killed, you wounded it. And that's another great line in the movie where Schwarzenegger says, if it bleeds, then we can kill it. So then they really set up like a bunch of booby traps. And again, doesn't help them. I guess it does help them for a split second, because the net ends up catching the Predator.
Mm-hmm.
But it starts shooting at everything wildly and ends up, shooting the tree down and gets out of the net. Another funny aside. The guy who trained me for projection, his favorite sci-fi, he was a big sci-fi guy. His favorite sci-fi movie, one of my favorite sci-fi movies, is Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Mm-hmm.
You want to know what his second favorite sci-fi movie was?
This one?
Predator. He loved it. And he said, you want to know what's really cool about that? He's like, it's obviously a Schwarzenegger movie, but the toughest guy in the movie is not Schwarzenegger. Who do you think the toughest guy in the movie is, according to this guy?
Billy.
He says the toughest guy in the movie is not Schwarzenegger, it's Billy.
So, again, another death that's off screen, but it's
really effective.
Yeah, very powerful. Where he just goes out like a fucking warrior.
Well, it was on the TV just before you and I started, where, he's like, that's, something, what is it? And he's like, oh, you're not afraid of any man. He's like, oh, what's after us? It ain't no man.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
He's like, we're all gonna die. So he kind of knows, and then, there's those scenes where he's like looking out, and Dutch is trying to ask him, like, well, what's up? But he's just got that like look in his eye, like he knows something is up. He can sense it. He's a good tracker.
They even say, what is it, Mac? That's like, that nose of his is crazy.
Yeah,
or what?
Yeah. And Dylan thinks that he's just losing it. It's like, oh no, he's losing it, man. He's losing it. But no, he knows something's up.
No, he was right.
And his death scene is awesome.
Yeah.
It's off screen, but they're running away. They're trying to get to the chopper at the extraction point, and he stops like as they cross that log that traverses the canyon there. He stops, throws his shit, throws his weapon, just takes the machete and stands there like waiting. And unfortunately you hear as Schwarzenegger and as Dutch and Poncho and Anna are escaping, you hear that scream coming from off screen. And the look on Dutch's face is like pretty good at that point. As Schwarzenegger, he has that look where it's like we really are fucked. He's sad that Billy's gone, but he also knows this is serious. The toughest dude around just got killed. You see the body later on, because that's where you actually see the Predator take the spine and the skull, like completely rip it out of his body.
Because the Predator's goal,
he's a trophy hunter.
Yeah, and that's we established that later. Yeah. That's a way of like, oh, this is my my big win.
Yeah.
But also, like you said, and your friend said, Billy was probably, other than Dutch, was like the lead.
Yeah.
Like the tough fucking the and they had their showdown.
Which they do pay kind of an homage to in Predators.
Mm-hmm.
And we can talk about the other movies in a moment. But I know that having just rewatched Predators not too long ago too, they pay homage to that with the Yakuza guy.
Oh yeah.
He tells him, you guys go on ahead, and he has his sword and he's ready to fight. They manage to get there, or they're headed towards the chopper, and then something happens and Poncho gets killed. Which it's really brutal because when the Predator gets trapped, when they set up the booby traps, it shoots like one of the logs that they had set up as a booby trap, and it comes down and just like crushes Poncho.
Mm-hmm.
Like just hits him and throws him like back however many feet. Probably breaking multiple ribs, his sternum. Even Billy's like, he's pretty busted up. He's like, I can make it. So he gets killed. Dutch gets shot. He prevents Anna from picking up the weapon because he doesn't want her to get killed, and kind of puts two and two together that you're not sport because you don't have a weapon.
Mm-hmm.
It's not fun for this guy, alien. So he tells Anna to go get to the chopper. That's one of the famous lines in the movie, which they reference in The Predator, and it's so dumb when they do. The Predator, we might as well just get out of the way now. Written and directed by Shane Black. Well, written by Fred Decker and Shane Black. And it's just, while there is some fun stuff in it, it's just not a great movie. And again, a lot of that had to do with studio fucking it up, because they have a whole different third act.
Oh yeah, they did reshoots, right?
Yeah, and they did research, and it's bad. Which is unfortunate, because I remember thinking like, oh, like it's a Shane Black movie, it's going to have like a lot of that kind of trademark wise guy Shane Black dialogue. And while it has some of that, like the movie itself is just, it's not great. And it's unfortunate because it's got another solid cast.
And also the villain, that big ass Predator, is like way too fucking intense. Like way too, like, what the fuck?
Even though I don't think it's a great movie, I still think Predators is decent. And Prey is the best Predator
sequel,
even though it's technically a prequel.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Prey is really amazing.
It is. Best thing they've done outside of the original, correct?
I would absolutely say so. Again, I don't hate too much on Predator 2, but yeah, Prey is way better.
Predators, I think, is pretty good, and that was them kind of going back to that original idea,
Yeah.
right? Playing off that. Robert Rodriguez produced it, right?
Yeah, I like that they're on an alien planet on like a game preserve.
Mm-hmm.
I really like Adrian Brody in the movie. Really like Alice Braga. I think they're both really good. It's got some earlier work from Walton Goggins and Mahershala Ali.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I don't know the guy's name, but the Yakuza guy, is very, very good in the movie.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's fun. I think it drags on a little too much, especially like when they get picked up by Lawrence Fishburne's character, and they spend that whole time in like his little hideout.
Yeah,
I think that kind of bogs the movie down. But a lot of the other stuff, the action scenes and the stuff in the jungle, and a lot of the different characters, I think are pretty fun.
Danny Trejo,
who I think is the first guy to get killed in that movie.
pretty fucked up kill.
Yeah, that's a good scene though. Is like when you hear him calling and Brody's like, no, he's like, they wound one man to bring us all in, and then we fall for it, and that's how we're gonna get killed. He's like, nope. So they go to walk away, and Alice Braga like can't leave him like that, so she ends up doing like a mercy kill and shooting him. And then as she's walking away, you hear "Help me" again. So she gets like really creeped out. It's a solid movie, but I talked that up because I just rewatched that not too long ago.
Oh, okay.
Like knowing that this was coming up, so I was like, oh, I'll jump into that. I wish I had more time. I would have watched Prey again. Just didn't really think about it. But yeah, we love Prey. That was a good movie. That was one of our favorite movies from a couple years ago when we did the year-end show.
Absolutely.
And Amber Midthunder, great actress. Always is fun to watch. So I was really excited to see her get like a big starring role.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. And again, man, Fox fucked up by not putting that out in the theaters.
They really should have. I hope this next one, they know better.
What, Badlands? It's Trachtenberg again, right?
Yes.
Who did Prey?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I hope that they realize the mistake they made by putting that like just strictly on Hulu. Bring it out in the theater.
I saw Prey got a physical release,
Mm-hmm.
which is awesome because it shows that they believe in it.
Yeah,
which they should.
Yeah, I don't know what their reasoning was behind not releasing it in the theater. They should have. It would have done good business, especially at the time that it came out. Kind of a later summer.
Mm-hmm.
Top Gun had kind of dominated that summer. Top Gun Maverick, like the first couple of months of that summer, because that was a huge hit. But when Prey came out, that was what, July?
Yeah.
So it would have done fairly well. I'd have to go back to look to see what its competition would have been, like in that immediate 2-week area or so. I don't remember much from that summer, but I remember Top Gun Maverick. Going back to Predator, Dutch tells Anna to get to the chopper. Get to the chopper! And then he goes to make his escape. There's that great little scene of him sliding down the hillside and then falling off the waterfall and into the lake below. And then he makes it to shore and kind of thinks that, I made it. He gets that moment of relief, and then you see the splash behind him. So he crawls up into the mud and goes to hide. And then is that when we get like the full reveal of what we're looking at? Because the water is kind of shorting out the cloaking device.
Mm-hmm.
So the Predator hits a couple of buttons and then uncloaks. And then you really get to see what it looks like. And it's cool. And then, there's the thing with Dutch and the mud. How the mud is covering up his heat signature. Even though I read that really wouldn't happen.
No?
No.
Movie magic?
Movie magic. suspension of disbelief. It makes for like a good scene in the movie, and a good way for him to fight the creature.
Yeah, you at some point something needs to happen where he can get some leverage.
Yeah,
and that's I feel like in the movie, in that universe, I've never questioned that.
Yeah,
and it looks fucking good on camera.
Yeah,
epic, right? You one ugly motherfucker.
When was it, you said Predator 2 was the first Predator movie you'd seen, or you'd seen that before you'd watched the first one. Me too.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'd watched Predator 2 with my parents, and my dad was like, "Oh yeah, like I should rent like Predator." He just never did, and I was just watching it like with the NBA Finals every year. But I watched Predator 2 with them, and when the reveal comes, when Glover pulls off the mask and starts to say it, and then the Predator finishes it, my mom, of all people, was like, "That's what Schwarzenegger said to the alien in the first movie."
Oh, man.
So I always thought that was funny. I was like, how did she remember that? But also, like, it was my mom's. So, yeah, there's that good reveal. There's the good scene of them kind of gearing up, like they're both gearing up for the fight.
Mm-hmm.
You get to see the reveal of the Predator, like, ripping Billy's spine out. But also, like, he has the collection of skulls from the other guys. We didn't talk about Mac or Dylan, how they got killed. Because they get killed in a pretty bad way. Like, Mac goes after the Predator after the ambush. He's chasing it, and he's kind of like, I don't want to say having like a breakdown, but he starts this, go a little crazy, singing the Little Richard tune over and over again. That's another thing that, like, my friend Asakawa and I will always reference, like, gonna have me some fun. Gonna have me some fun. We would always reference that. And then Dylan goes after him, and Dutch tells him that, like, you can't win. And he says, yeah, maybe I'll get payback. That's kind of what he's looking for, because the guys that they originally went after were friends of his. Jim Hopper and those guys, like, they were friends of his, and he wants to get whatever did this to his friends, even though he kind of realizes at this point in time, yeah, we're outmatched for sure. We're definitely going to get killed.
I do like going a little, like, rewinding a little bit back when Dutch realizes that Dylan has been kind of dishonest with why they're there. He's all, and you dropped us into a fucking meat grinder.
Yeah.
It's a great line.
Yeah, because he finds all that out, like, when they raid the compound. They find all the intel.
Yeah.
It turns out that, like, these guys were, like, CIA. And yeah, they're not like a diplomat or something. Like, these guys are company men. So yeah, he has that confrontation with them. He says, "Oh, it's too hot for the extraction here. Like, find me a place." I like how he's like, he slaughtered all these dudes, and then he's like casually like smoking a cigar.
Yeah.
In typical Schwarzenegger fashion.
Very Commando vibes.
Man, no, he smokes the cigar in Last Action Hero. And then that's when you kind of get not the reveal, obviously, but the first sense that the Predator is watching. Something's watching them, because you see, like, the heat signature, you hear the repeated lines.
I heard that the heat signature stuff, they couldn't actually use authentic heat signature because it wouldn't show up on the...
It was like the jungle. It was just making everything, like, too hot.
Yeah. So they used... I forget what they called it, but it was like some form of film to kind of mock that look.
For the Predator's thermal vision, an inframetrics thermal video scanner was used because it gave good heat images of the people and objects in the shot.
There you go. Thank you. Yes.
I knew that was in my notes somewhere. Even though that's like Does anyone know what that is? Is that really explaining anything? Not really, but yes, they had to get like a specific piece of equipment to get those heat signatures.
Did you know that I think somebody fucked up on when they went up to start shooting, they had the wrong kind of film stock, and that's why it's like super grainy, I guess.
Oh, really?
That first, like, yeah, like with obviously it's been remastered and everything now, but like when it was first released, you know how there's like a lot of grays?
Yeah.
Everywhere? I guess that was a film stock thing.
Kind of like we talked about in Aliens a few years ago when Cameron shot with that film stock, which is notoriously grainy, and it kind of washes out some of the colors.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I did... Because of the complexities of the optical effects used in the film, Fox wouldn't allow McTiernan to shoot an anamorphic widescreen. He had to shoot in the 1.85 to 1 flat ratio, which he wasn't a fan of.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All his other later movies are shot in the scope anamorphic. Apparently, because he was so mad, like the Fox logo at the beginning looked stretched because the Fox logo is in anamorphic, just projected on a flat screen. That's why it looks like that, but I didn't really catch that. I tried watching like the credits, or not the credits, but like the studio logo to see if I could tell.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm wondering if that's been fixed with, remastered editions later on, so it won't look funky. The Die Hard one looks funky to me. When every time I watch Die Hard, the 20th Century Fox logo looks weird. It looks like it's Die Hard is anamorphic, and it looks like the logo is in the 1.85 ratio.
Oh, okay.
That's me. I'd like to know if that's true or not. But every time I see the beginning of Die Hard, I see the Fox logo come up. I'm like, that looks weird to me. It doesn't look... Knowing what that stuff looks like, being a projectionist, with having the wrong lens in, it looks like it's the wrong lens is used for that logo.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd be wondering about that. But I didn't notice it when I watched Predator, that it's the Fox logo's anamorphic when he shot on the 1.85. That's inside baseball because I'm a projectionist and I know shit like that. And everyone else listening is like, what the fuck is he talking about? So he has the confrontation with the Predator. There's that really great fight scene among them. I like watching him like gear up, like make the booby traps, make his bow and arrow with just, his fucking huge knife and, the couple of grenades that he still has on him that he's making like little, they're not grenades because he uses the gunpowder, but something to like light the fire.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
He takes the gunpowder out of them and uses them like little incendiaries. That's really cool. And then their confrontation is really cool. Really great fight scene. And you can tell, like, Schwarzenegger's a big dude, but then you get him sized up against the Predator and Kevin Peter Hall, who's over 7 feet tall. You can tell, like, yeah, Dutch is outmatched. You thought Dutch was like a big guy. This guy's bigger. I like when, what does he hit him with? He hits him with like the log. Dutch hits him with the log and it just breaks and he's like, bad idea. But he has the fight scene with him and manages to come out victorious. He tries to get him to come in. He tries to lure him into like the trap, but the Predator sees it and is too smart.
Yeah.
But then he manages to get him with the rocks that he has like strung up. So the rocks end up crushing him. And that's when he goes and he sees that the Predator is, I guess, dying. You can see the blood coming out, like the really cool like neon green blood. But then he has like the little bomb on his arm. Which is cool because he activates the bomb, but then there's the laughter. There's Billy's laugh that he plays because he can mimic.
Yes. Yeah.
And there's a and even though it's alien technology, Dutch is smart enough to know that that's a bomb, and I'm gonna get the fuck out of there. It's a self-destruct device. So he runs off. There's a mini nuclear explosion, which is a really cool effect when they're flying the helicopter, looking to pick him up, and you can see like the little mushroom cloud in the jungle.
Yeah.
And then just that like last shot of them coming through in the jungle and looking out, and he's just like standing there amongst all the ruins, like standing there looking like a badass. I mean, it's not the final shot of the film, but just like that, like last shot of him just standing amongst all the jungle that's gone now, that's all been flattened by the bomb, and just even the general is like, this guy's a fucking badass. He doesn't say that, but like just the look on his face. But and he's, you know, Anna looks at him at the end. He's in the chopper. He's just got that like that stare.
Yeah,
just like he's been through a lot. He's seen a lot, and he just kind of is still kind of comprehending what just happened.
Probably traumatized.
Traumatized, yeah. And then like get the fucking rad score at the end. And then they do like a cool thing, which I always like in movies, when they go back and like give each character like their own card.
Mm-hmm.
Predator's not the first movie that does that. Like fucking Top Gun does that the year before. That's one of the main ones I always remember. That I always like the end credit sequence of Top Gun because of that, because it shows all the characters and everything. Speaking of Brewster McCloud and Robert Altman, according to McTiernan, that's where he got the idea from, was Brewster McCloud, because they do that at the end.
Oh.
Except it's what Brewster McCloud does is even better, because it's not just like the card with each actor on it. They kind of come out at the end, and it's like a circus vibe. And everyone's like dressed for the circus, and there's an announcer like announcing like all of the actors in the movie as they come out. Like Duvall is dressed as a clown.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny. Have you ever seen Brewster McCloud?
No.
I don't want to ruin it, like the ending of the movie for you, but that's what after the end of the film, that's what they do, is they have like the circus comes out, and like the announcer is announcing all the actors, and they're all in character as like circus performers.
Oh, okay.
And Shelley Duvall is dressed up as like a ragdoll like clown, basically. But when I read that he got the idea from Brewster McCloud of doing like kind of a curtain call, I was like, yeah, but Brewster McCloud doesn't have the like the cards, basically like the shot of the actor with like his name, and like in, you know, a shot from the movie, or all of these were shot separately, you could tell, because they're all just like kind of smiling and laughing and everything. Like they were shot specifically for this end credit sequence. But you should check out Brewster McCloud for sure, but especially like the end where they introduce all the people that are in the film, because it's really fun. It's a really interesting way of doing that. And I'm wondering if there's other movies that have done something similar.
There's a horror franchise that I think that we both are pretty big fans of, that does this title card, or yeah, the character card at the end.
Scream?
Yes.
Yeah.
Good job.
I was thinking, yeah, because I know it does it for all of them, but I like the first Scream when it does it, because I like the Icicle Works cover.
Oh yeah,
that plays over the credits. Oh no, who does that cover? Do you know? Do you have that soundtrack?
For one?
Yeah.
No,
I was wondering who does the Icicle Works like Birds Fly cover. It's not the first time I heard Red Right Hand, but that's Red Right Hand is in that movie. I think it's in all of them.
Nick Cave.
The Nick Cave song. I know that song because it was in a very famous X-Files episode playing on a radio. But when I heard it in Scream, I was like, "Oh, I know that song. Like, that's a great song."
Do you know where they use it now? Are you familiar with where that song is like? How do you say used? It's used in a show now, like a contemporary show.
No.
Peaky Blinders.
Is that the credits? Does it play like over the credits?
Yeah.
Okay, I think I have heard that.
Yeah. So now when people hear that song, they think Peaky Blinders, not Scream.
Yeah. I always think Scream, even though I really associate it with that X-Files episode, because it's like really creepy the way it's used in an X-Files episode, where it's playing on the radio as the guy's like driving his after he abducted Scully.
Mm-hmm.
When she got abducted in the second season. I'm an X-Files fan. At least the first 5 seasons of them. We've been through this before. So I like how the movie ends with the cards introducing all the actors, and you can tell that they were shot because they're all like smiling or doing something fun.
Mm-hmm.
I like how Mac has like the flask, and he kind of like offers it
Mm-hmm.
like to the camera. The only one that I don't think is shot for it specifically is Schwarzenegger's. That looks like a scene from the film.
Mm.
They do a freeze frame on him. Fucking Ventura is like spitting like the tobacco juice. So fucking gross.
Oh, we didn't talk about
My
his
stomach is growling. I hope the mic picks that up.
What he says in the chopper is hilarious.
Oh, about when he has the dip.
Yeah. Can't say it all, I guess.
We won't repeat the offensive language, but when the sexual Tyrannosaurus line is pretty great too. Because he like offers it to like Billy, and Billy like shakes his head, and Poncho's like, "Get that shit out of my face."
Yeah, but his delivery is so hilarious.
Yeah, he drops an F-bomb on him, and then he says, "This stuff will make you a goddamn sexual Tyrannosaurus,
It's
just like me."
It's just like, this isn't like, are you reading the room? Like, it's not the time to say this. And they play that little Richard tune in the chopper. There's a cassette player, right?
Yeah.
Or a boombox.
Yeah. Long Tall Sally. Great tune. Love that tune. Yeah, it's playing in the chopper and the boombox while they're flying into the landing zone. And then they rope down into the landing zone and start.
Yeah.
So that's Long Tall Sally is what Mac is singing
later
on, like when he's chasing the predator. There's another great, well, the Mac line that he has, like when we didn't even talk about their deaths yet. Shit, I mentioned this like 10 minutes ago. We still haven't got to their deaths. Mac and Dylan go after the predator. Mac grabs Dylan and says, "Can you see him like out there?" Like, he's like, "Past them trees." It's like, I see. And then Dylan finally sees like the cloaking. He sees the weird effect, that optical effect of him blending in with the jungle.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I see it. And they concoct a plan. And somehow the predator flanks him, kills Mac, and gives him a nice headshot, which is it's brutal because the blood and the brains just like splatter all over the camera. And then as he walks away, there's like, you can see Mac's leg twitching still. And then Dylan sees it, goes to fire at it, and gets shot in the arm, and it blows his arm off. And then he pulls the other weapon from around him because he has two guns, and then goes to shoot it, and the predator impales him on those.
Oh yeah, the dagger things.
Those shredder like claws that he has. Which is another really cool shot when he's gearing up, how he gets the laser on it to heat him up. So that's how Mac and Dylan die. However, one of the other lines I want to shout out from the movie is early on in the film, when they're moving through the jungle, and Dylan kind of stumbles and slides down and makes a ton of noise. He goes up, and like Mac is there. He's like, "Hey, you're ghosting us." He's like, "You do that again, I'll bleed you real quiet. Leave you here." Got it? He tells him, like, "I don't care like who you are back in the world, but like out here, like you're endangering us. And if you do that again, like I'll kill you and I'll leave you here because, you're not as important as the squad is.
Because Dylan is kind of like what would you say, a liaison?
He's a liaison. He's obviously a soldier, but he's been like out of that game for a while because he's CIA now. So he's not quite up to the level that these other guys are. You know, they're special forces. But both Dylan and Dutch are Vietnam vets, according to the film. And I don't know about Blaine and Mac. They've obviously served before, but I don't know if they're referencing Vietnam when they're talking. They must be, because Blaine mentions Cambodia.
Mm-hmm.
So they must be Vietnam vets as well. Here we go. Predator, released June 12, 1987, winning the weekend box office with a $12 million haul. A movie from a director we just talked about a couple months ago. Also opens up that same weekend. That's George Miller in The Witches of Eastwick. Opens up that weekend. And in the top 5 as well, Beverly Hills Cop 2, which had opened up a few weeks before. And The Untouchables, that was a good summer. Another movie that has come out that summer that you and I have spoken about in one of or as an episode is RoboCop. Comes out a few weeks, or the next month. I think it's a mid to late July release. So, pretty solid summer. Grosses 59.7 mil at the domestic box office and another 38.5 internationally. Box office total, as you said, was 98, just under 100. I wish it had performed a little bit better, but maybe this was a movie that people weren't really expecting or wasn't really on people's radars.
What about inflation? Or like what?
Like what is 98 million in 1987 now? Probably 200 mil or something now. So, still a good hit. I always use the metric that they used to use, which was 100 million. If it made over 100 million, it was a huge movie. But the first movie that ever made over 100 million was Jaws. Okay, you mentioned in your write-up that the film got kind of like mixed to bad reviews. Because even a couple of the good reviews I managed to pull, like, were kind of throwing some shade at it as well. But here's some reviews for you. The Los Angeles Times called it arguably one of the emptiest, feeblest, most derivative scripts ever made as a major studio movie. Yikes. Variety wrote the film was slightly above average actioner that tries to compensate for its tissue-thin plot with ever more grisly death sequences and impressive special effects. We've been through this before. Not every movie needs to be Chinatown. Not every movie needs to be super fucking complicated. Sometimes a simple premise is all you need for a great movie. The Road Warrior, which we spoke about 2 months ago. Very simple premise.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing film. I don't know why everyone thinks like every movie needs to have some like crazy plot.
Doesn't need to be Citizen Kane, people.
No. Janet Maslin of the New York Times called the film a grisly and dull with few surprises, and Cinefantastique said it was a militarized monster movie that tires under its own derivative weight. I don't know. Up until that time, was there ever like a really awesome action sci-fi horror movie?
Aliens?
That came out the year before. Are they trying to say that Predator's just an Aliens ripoff? Commando meets Aliens, I think that's what Joel Silver was trying to pitch it as.
I don't think Predator feels anything like Aliens at all.
No, I don't think so either. For all those who are saying it was derivative, I was wondering, like, what were they comparing it to?
Yeah.
That they were calling it derivative. Now, here are 2 positive reviews I pulled for it, but again, like I said, even those 2 were kind of throwing a little bit of shade. While the Hollywood Reporter's review did claim that the film loses some of its wallop due to its reliance on gore and special effects in the first half, it said it was much more satisfying when Schwarzenegger goes one-on-one with the alien. However, they did praise the overall film, saying, structurally, Predator is a classic behind-enemy-lines/buddy movie. Nothing much new, just well done. The troops, all types typical of the genre, are nevertheless a well-developed, individually identifiable team. Later on in the review, they go to single out the performances of Bill Duke, Carl Weathers, and Richard Chavez, who plays Pancho. They single them out, but I think like everyone is great in it. I think Ventura is great. I think Sonny Landham as Billy is great. I think Carrillo is great as Anna. Like, she adds a lot to that movie, like a different dimension that's not all just like these tough guys.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she's with them. She can kind of hold her own. She's smart enough to know what to do. And again, she's the one that kind of gives them a little bit of, not backstory, but is kind of better clued into what might be happening than these guys are.
Yeah, she's alluding to something that they've never dealt with.
Yeah.
Right.
So, as continuing the Hollywood Reporter's quote, certainly part of the strength of this high artillery movie, in addition to Schwarzenegger's fearless presence, is the unit's camaraderie and expertise. That was me dropping my pen. I apologize. While the dialogue is occasionally leaden, scriptwriters Jim Thomas and John Thomas have shelled out some sharp, lethal lines. Schwarzenegger, as usual, is at his best delivering dry-humored salvos. I'm thinking to Stick Around, although I did read that Stick Around was an improv. Visually, Predator is a full assault experience. Director John McTiernan mixes his range of shots with fast precision and full blast effect. Perhaps Predator's best asset is the expressive, kinetic photography of Donald McAlpine. His frame is always full, multi-hued, and richly composed. It is no mere shooting of the jungle. And then from Roger Ebert, our buddy, who gave it 3 out of 4 stars, also praised the direction and cinematography of the film, writing, Predator is filmed very well. It's a slick, high-energy action picture that takes a lot of its strength from its steamy locations in Mexico. The heroes spend most of their time surrounded by an impenetrable jungle, a green wall of majestic vistas, populated by all sorts of natural predators, in addition to the alien. I've rarely seen a jungle look more beautiful or more convincing. The location effect is on par with Fitzcarraldo and the Emerald Forest. I haven't seen Fitzcarraldo. That's a Werner Herzog movie, but the Emerald Forest is a good movie. That's John Borman, I think. Predator moves at a breakneck pace. It has strong and simple characterizations. It has good location photography and terrific special effects. And it supplies what it claims to supply, an effective action movie. So that was Ebert. And then years later, writing for Empire magazine, Chris Hewlett wrote, Predator has gradually become a sci-fi and action classic. It's not difficult to see why. John McTiernan's direction is claustrophobic, fluid, and assured, staging the action with aplomb, but concentrating just as much on tension and atmosphere, a thumping piece of powerhouse cinema. Ebert was pretty good with his. It was the Hollywood Reporters where it's like, that's a good review, but they're also kind of like crapping on some aspects of the movie. And then lastly, in my notes, I have, in 2021, screenwriters Jim and John Thomas, trying to take advantage of a copyright termination provision, sued Disney, who now owned 20th Century Fox and the rights to Predator, hoping to recover their literary copyright on the film. Disney countersued in order to keep the franchise and the character in their library of films. Apparently Disney came out victorious because Prey got produced by Hulu, which is owned, parent company is Disney, and released in August of 2022. I thought it was July. Are my notes wrong? But yeah, so Disney must have come out victorious because Prey ended up coming out on Hulu. But again, as you and I have both stated, it would have really been awesome to see on the big screen. So that's what I have to say on Predator. Those are my notes. I think we've talked about it enough.
Teaser for next month?
We'll try to get back on schedule for our next film, which, completing our Summer of Sci-Fi, gonna go with what I think is maybe fighting words, but I think is one of the best, if not the best, sci-fi film of the last decade. From a director who is incredible and is a very good sci-fi director, along with being a great regular director. I don't know if I can say that like in a way that's not demeaning to him, because he's a fantastic director, but has also done really great work in sci-fi.
Mm-hmm.
I think that this is one of the best sci-fi movies of the last decade, if not the best. With some really, really great performances in it. One in particular.
We can leave it at that. There's no rules.
I feel
here.
like I'm not giving enough of a tease, but I feel like if I say more, I might tip our hat to what it is. But a really amazing film. I remember being blown away watching this movie. And still, if it's another movie that if it comes on, like I'll put it on and just leave it on because it's an incredible movie. And I want to read the source material. And I don't know if I'm going to get a chance. I didn't think about that. Fuck. Because I just jumped into a new book, and if we're going to be doing this show within the next couple of weeks, most likely, I should have thought about that. I wanted to read the source material it was based on. I don't know if I get a chance. That's okay, though. We're still going to talk up this movie. That's my tease.
Okay.
I don't know if you need to add anything to that tease.
No.
Okay. I hope that's enough to keep you coming. It's the final movie of our third annual Summer of Sci-Fi. Please come back to listen to this. This is a movie that I think did very well, but I still somehow feel like it's underrated.
If you're stumbling upon this podcast, we go by Drop the Mic, and we are available on all major podcast platforms. That's including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Google Podcasts. If it plays a podcast, you name it, we're on it. So check us out. Give us a little 5-star rating, quick review if you got a minute or two to spare in your day. Helps us stay relevant in the search engines. And yeah, check out our channel on YouTube, which is doing pretty well, I would say.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell my friend to look that up, because she was like, "Oh, you got your friend should put the podcast on YouTube," and I was like, "I think it is."
So there's no video, but the audio is there, and it's one cohesive piece. So you just press play, and I know a lot of people who love to listen to podcasts on YouTube specifically. So,
she always is listening to stuff, not necessarily podcasts, but like talk stuff,
audio
while she's working.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, when I was talking with her the other day, she was like, "Oh, your friend should put that on YouTube."
Yep,
I believe it is.
It is.
Okay,
it has been. But yeah, check us out. And thank you for everybody that's sticking around.
Sorry that there was a big gap between our episodes.
Yes, but
we're gonna close it this month
on time.
On time
is the goal.
Or as close as we can.
We're going to get back to a better schedule. I think, at least on my side, things should be starting to get a little bit more stable, where I can jump back on track and start making more content, and just keep an eye out for more Drop the Mic in the future. Thank you, Chris, for making time for the show and me.
Thank you for accommodating a crazy schedule. I had a really, really awful, well, I shouldn't say awful, because I do enjoy working, but just a crazy work schedule with no breaks and very long hours for a good stretch there, which is why it got delayed the first time, and then for being accommodating when my sinuses were going haywire. Still are, but not as bad as they were late last week when we were planning on doing the show. So thank you for accommodating me on that.
Anytime, man. This was a lot of fun.
This was a good episode.
Yeah, I feel like we were vibing, probably because we haven't seen each other in so long.
It's late June.
Yeah. It was great being back in the studio. This was very something I needed.
Yeah, good.
So, appreciate you. Everybody go watch Predator one more time. We're going to get out of here. Signing off. It's Wesley Swanson and Chris Pollock. saying good fight.
And good night.
What is it? Billy. What the hell is wrong with you? There's something in those trees.